So Gamsu thinking about what he's going to pick up. Again, I would assume it's the Viego. It just seems like a really strong pick, but the Thresh being available for Gweiss, not a bad option.
No, this is what I was going to mention, because when you look at the bans, you can see there's a little bit of that target, a little bit of the narrow focus from both of the teams. The Ziggs taken away from Instinct, but also that LeBlanc from Aspect means that both Viego and Thresh, that we saw the Thresh banned every single game last series that we had on stream, meaning here, an easy first pick. It has to be traded, though, for the Viego. And other things that we see that are left open are things like Vars, things like Kaisa that Sasuke was playing a lot yesterday. The Vars in games 1 and 2, maybe he wasn't able to do as much as he would have liked to, but he was pivotal for making sure that he could set up the team. He became more of a utility than anything else.
And yesterday, we even saw 100 Thieves next doing the Protect the Kog'Maw strat, which Thresh does enable. It also enables the Jinx that we definitely saw from EGP yesterday. So those hyper carry picks definitely on the table, and that will be the Jinx locked in. So a great counter to take away. And we'll have to see exactly what the third pick is. Oh, Young going for the Zoe. He did play this once yesterday. Not the strongest pick per se, but still a very comfortable champion for Young.
It's just interesting to see it blind. That's the only thing I have against it, because we know that Aspect has played Syndra, and Syndra is a nice pick to be able to take into that matchup, to be able to constantly bully and try to see anytime your portal jump in. It's an easy scatter the weak follow-up from Syndra. The only thing is Zoe, if played right from the side of Young, is going to try to push out the waves earlier on, but the mana change to Syndra to make it a little bit less costly in those early first levels gives even more power in that matchup.
I think it really comes down to how they saw the game go yesterday with EGP. The Syndra did come in, but it wasn't a huge success, and I think that element is going to play a lot into this matchup today. Aspect is going to be trying to sort of redeem himself in the eyes of viewers using the Syndra, and we'll see how it does into the Zoe. As you said, it is the counter pick, so we'll see if that is in fact the case, or if Young can somehow overcome that with interference from Chad.
I'm looking at this next part of the picks, though. The junglers aren't actually taken because Viego can be flexed. We know Bluster has played it and played it well in games 1 and 2 yesterday against AoE, but it could still be for Surdy. It could still be flexed around. It's not guaranteed to go into that position, and that's why I think that 100 Thieves Next and the EGP are both focusing so hard on trying to see if they can take away stuff from the top side of the map, especially Gamsu. I'm surprised we actually didn't see the Sejuani ban, because Sejuani top lane is something Gamsu has been playing a good amount. A lot of the tanks as well, but personally, I just like seeing that Sejuani top lane.
I mean, it'd be fun, but I feel like if you have the Ornn available, that's going to add a lot of engage to this team composition, which so far is kind of weak. Yeah, you could rely on the Thresh, but as we've seen in many games throughout the years, it's just not a reliable source of engage. You have to really commit. And having a long range, such as Ornn or even sort of Sejuani, it's just going to make it a lot easier for 100 Thieves Academy to scale into the late game and really get those team fights that they want to have.
Oh, but Rakan locked in for Skytech. Skytech's actually been really liking this Rakan throughout EGL, utilizing that to be the engage tool for the team, so Bluster can follow up later. When playing this Viego, Bluster has been a bit more on the passive side in these earlier first few levels, trying to be able to scale up a bit more, trying to make sure that you're going to be able to actually facilitate your engage tool of Rakan.
And Chad taking perhaps the most Chad pick in the jungle. This is something that would probably work very well against Bluster. We were commenting on his early game in yesterday's series, and I think this is a good way to punish it. Get the early engage, get the early hits in with the Lee Sin, and really punish the scaling choices that Bluster's going to be making today.
I also like that Ornn that you had called out. The only problem is that Surdy likes to play bruisers and likes to fight in the top lane. And I have seen matchups with Set into any tank. He is a bully. He will take control. Surdy in a perfect position to try to flex his might in that top lane.
You know, looking at both of these drafts, I think both teams are really going for their strengths here. I think 100 Thieves Next are really going for something that worked yesterday. It's not necessarily a winning comp against something like Wildcard, but against EGP, this seems like what they can actually play confidently. And Evil Genius's Prodigies, on the other hand, they have a lot of different options. They have the ability to skirmish, they have the ability to team fight with Aspect and Sasuke specifically, and I think this is going to be a really interesting matchup, especially as we get towards the mid game.
And I'm looking at how Chad Jungle is going to be on this Lee Sin into Bluster's Viego. I want to see aggression. I want to see the Chad Jungler we always know he is, trying to make sure that he can punish Bluster at every single step, so there isn't actually going to be that much of a fight from EGP at the mid game.
It's definitely going to be close, I think, as the game goes on. But as you said, the early game probably going to be dictated by 100 Thieves next if Chad can get in the jungle of EGP. We'll have to see if that's the case as we go into game, or as we look at these full rosters. Again, it really comes down to that early game for Chad. Can he back up Young, or is he going to go more towards that bot side?
The thing I also really like from 100 Thieves Next, and even EGP, is the fact of how these team compositions are going to function. There's a bit more of the non-committal engage on the side of 100 Thieves Next, which could work with Ornn. But then you have Set, you have Rakan on the other side of Viego too. Man, when they go in, they are going to stay for the fight. I don't know if 100 Thieves Next are going to be able to disengage, but here we are. It's the third place matchup. Game number 1, 100 Thieves Next, Evil Geniuses Prodigies. We have said it before, we'll say it again. The winner of this series has qualified themselves immediately to skip the qualifiers and go right to Proving Grounds.
And let me tell you, 100 Thieves Next are really trying to go for that spot because as points stand right now, Magical, it's looking kind of bad. They're at about the 7th or 8th place spot, and even getting a 4th place in this total tournament is not going to be great going into the total qualifier event, the Grand Prix, that's going to be coming up very soon.
And here's going to be Gweiss, Chad, and Instinct. Walking up, spotted completely by the ward, placed down by Skytech. Not going to be able to make that early play. They would have liked to have that set up. Unfortunately, I think this is a smart call by EGP, playing it safe, knowing that they are going to look for these early plays for Chad, for Gweiss, try to see if they can pick off somebody, even get a flash so that later on, Chad's going to be able to gank them over and over again.
It's definitely a good call, just backing up, keep it safe, because again, you want to scale up if you're Evil Geniuses. You give that first blood over, suddenly Chad becomes a lot scarier, Magical, and if he gets scary, then he's going to dominate the game, and you definitely don't want that in the first 5 minutes of the game, and the last thing you want is to allow Instinct to scale up as fast as possible.
Spotted out, has to flash away from the grand entrance. Smart call by Young, but now the flash burned, gives a bit of an opportunity to EGP to see if they can play in that mid lane.
And I have to imagine Chad's going to have to change his pathing in order to protect Young, because if you have Aspect and you have Bluster available in order to take that fight, it's going to be over really quickly, Magical. That is a lot of damage that can come out of Syndra early.
Here, Surdy saying to Gamsu, you're not allowed to be in this lane at all. This is mine. Go away. Even if he missed the face breaker there, it is still that passive that you have to deal with on set, that he can constantly bully out someone like Ornn until he's going to be able to get a couple of levels to stay a bit safer, but unfortunately, it's the set versus tank matchup in that top lane. It's never going to work out too well, but Young taking a really bad trade against Aspect mid.
It's that bullying aspect that Syndra is just so great at, and you said it, Magical. It's the blind pick Zoe that was so concerning about this draft from 100 Thieves Next. EGP just punished well, and you can see Aspect playing his comfort, getting the bully down, and really utilizing the summoner spell advantage that he's gained so far.
He's going to keep bullying him. Not even having to worry too much about mana. We've talked about this just yesterday. The patch 11-15 buff to Syndra, allowing her in these earlier levels to be able to more consistently push in this minion wave since it's down 20 mana at the first rank. Giving a lot of extra power to Aspect and allowing Bluster here to play it so safe since he's got priority top, he's got priority mid. He's not having to worry too much about Chad going for these invades like we expected to see early on.
But look at Gweiss in position, trying to get on Aspect and make sure the bullying is let up even just a little bit, because Young really needs to get these minions early on.
You see those pings, though. They thought that there was going to be a potential engage from Bluster if they committed too heavily. It was a nice play by Aspect. He played towards the top side to avoid any sort of play. Didn't even have to burn a summoner spell. Plus, he's still got a charge on his Corrupting Pond. He's got an extra biscuit in his inventory to make sure that he doesn't have to even recall for quite some time.
But unfortunately, the change in his pocket just isn't enough, Magical. You can see Bluster not going for that mid lane play. The pings were down, but I guess there just wasn't enough confidence with Gweiss in the area. If only EGP could get... I guess. But if EGP were to really go for that play early, I feel like Bluster would be in a much better position to scale up into this game.
But we saw what he does on Viego in the last series, just yesterday, games 1 and 2, how he plays a lot more passively in these early levels on Viego, trying to scale up, trying to make sure he can get these first backs off, get a couple items in his inventory, and then look to impact the lanes, after he's got his Heartbreaker available to him to give him a bit more engaged potential.
It's definitely important to get those backs off, but as we've been saying, Magical, it's all about the early game and these jungle matchups, and I think it was the desk that was saying how the jungle determines the game, and especially in the first 5 minutes, neither of these junglers have really gotten a successful gank off.
Saskio and Skytech are playing really far up, and look who is on the wings. Chad was nearby. I'm surprised that he actually didn't try to go for anything further. I think that ward inside the brush right where you see Skytech walking to was enough information for Saskio and Skytech. They have all their summoners available that they were going to be able to get out, but I would like to see more proactivity coming in from Chad soon, since we know that Lee Sin wants to be a bully, and eventually, if you're not bullying this Viego and he's allowed to scale up to that 2-3 item spike, he's going to be nearly unstoppable.
And really, a lot of his lanes are suffering right now on 100 Thieves Next. You can see Gamsu in the top. He is able to get that push, but he's going to be so far behind in farm. We talked about the mid ad nauseum so far this game, and even bot lane getting shoved in a lot. So Chad Jungle not being in the middle of this game really starts to hurt 100 Thieves' composition.
But you can see that he does understand that as well. He is trying to make these plays a reality. He's all over the place. He was just bot, now top here mid. Bluster going for his first engage. It's going to be the knock up. The Lantern is there. Not able to click it just yet. Getting a little bit of damage onto Aspect. They're trying to see if they can actually turn it around. And they do! Young gets first blood, even though Bluster was able to return it back. It's still the kill evened up and gifted gold over to Young.
A great early play coming in from both sides. Evil Genius's Prodigies thought they had the jump, but unfortunately the distance was just too great, and Weiss able to hold off the attack for so long means it's a 1-for-1 trade instead of the 1-for-0.
Exactly, and this is a 2v3 play setup by EGP. It should be so easy, but like you said, keep your eyes on Weiss.
He's just so far away, and he's able to get the perfect hook onto Aspect so the damage can't come through. You have 1.5 sources of damage between Rakan and Viego at this point in the game, versus 2 sources of damaging Weiss's early, as well as Zoe onto Aspect, who, at this point in the game, pretty squishy.
Plus, they needed Aspect to get that damage. It's Syndra, after all. You want that extra damage that Syndra's going to be provided, but Aspect was CC'd for so long, it was as though he wasn't even a part of the fight.
Absolutely, but let's see what the retaliation looks like from the side of EGP. Can they get even more damage onto Young? The flash is back up, so it's going to be a lot harder to kill this Zoe, as well as the portal jump now available.
All that time, we had seen that Chad Jungle had rotated into the top lane and was looking for a play onto Surdy. Wasn't able to accomplish anything, not even a flash burn on it to that call set. Knowing that this matchup is all about how well he's going to farm in this game, he's not really going to be punished against Ornn. Ornn is just kind of the meatball. Eventually, he wants to be able to join in with the team to actually be impactful.
But for the moment, I think Ornn is more than happy to sit here. Gamsu just getting his farm. He's about 15 behind, but that's what you'd expect from a matchup like this, Bruiser versus Ornn. And quite honestly, he's doing pretty darn well. He's still high health. He's not really prone to engages at this point in the game. He can just sit there, and there's not really a great way to punish without dragging 3 people to the top lane.
I also like seeing, you know, it's rare to say you like seeing a player on tanks, but Gamsu on tanks is really fascinating. He understands that early pressure you can get from the base damages of tanks. You look back, I believe it was in just the regular Season 4 EGL, where he was playing Tahm Kench into a bad matchup, and he was still able, despite being pushed underneath his turret over and over again, to find solo kills in those matchups.
The only difference being Ornn not having the same amount of solo kill priority. You can see that Set is just such a difficult matchup for him that if he tries to go in, he's going to lose that matchup 1v1 until probably level 10 or 11.
He needs Chad Jungle's assistance in that lane if they actually want to be able to kill Surdy, because right now, Surdy doesn't even want to fight. Having gone for the call, he can skirmish, he can fight a little bit, but it's more reliant on bringing his own jungler into the equation and getting Bluster to get a little bit of extra damage. And now that Gamsu's a bit far out, he has to dash away. He will be able to get out of there. And it's going to mean that, unfortunately for the side of EGP, even though it looked like they were going to be able to punish Gamsu, they were quicker on that play to bring out their bot lane for the Rift Herald.
I was about to say, that's a really fast rotation coming in from Instinct and Gweiss. Probably the complete lane swap coming in so that Gamsu can get a little bit more farm down bot. The teleport going in confirms that, and that's a Rift Herald going over 200 Thieves Next.
Because you look at the inventory of Gamsu. He's got that Bramble Vest, got the Giant Spell, and what does Saskio have on the other side? The Serrated Dirk with Tear of the Goddess, going for the lethality build on this Varus. Not really going to be able to do enough to Gamsu to really scare him. He's just going to be able to farm right underneath that turret and say, all right, cool, you can't really take the turret.
It's just going to be the same matchup for Gamsu, but the difference is he doesn't have to worry about as much damage. Set a lot better against tanks than Varus, especially with the lethality build, and we'll see how this goes later on. Sasuke's going to have a really tough time farming up if there's any assistance whatsoever from 100 Thieves next.
Here come the reinforcements for Surdy on this top side, since he had TP'd back into the top lane, not even trying to answer into the bot lane. It's going to mean that they could play around this. Try to see if they can utilize a little bit of that extra damage you're going to get from the early game of both Set and Rakan.
And Bluster's able to take away the first dragon of the game for EGP, an Ocean Dragon. So at the very least, these lane rotations do give something to EGP. They know that Lee Sin had to be towards the top side, and Chad was unable to respond to a bot side jungle dragon take.
Here's Chad hanging out towards the top side, looking to see if they can maybe use that Rift Herald top side. Would be nice to be able to give extra gold over to Instinct. Jinx lanes, especially with Thresh, this is something I like. It's like seeing an Aphelios Thresh lane. It's so difficult to actually do anything to the Jinx, and the more gold you continue to funnel into the pocket of this ADC means the sooner and scarier that late game is going to happen for Jinx.
And one more plate might be able to do it, but Surdy able to hold it off, so 3 plates only down for the side of 100 Thieves Academy, or 100 Thieves Next, and they're able to do a lot of damage. They back off, but maybe there's an engage here, Magical.
Surdy's getting pulled back in the box, and even the Ignite used. He's got that shield if necessary. A lot of damage to throw right back in the face of Chad Jungle with a knockup coming in. 2v3, the boss is here. Twice trying to be able to run away from the fight, but here comes the flash in from Surdy. Even with the flame, helps him get a triple kill.
Very nicely played by EGP. They find the engage as the backs are going off, and there just wasn't enough health left in the tank for 100 Thieves Next to really make that work. So very well done. A 2v3 goes the way of EGP, and that is how you get a top lane started.
Exactly, but as long as the curse of yesterday, the 3-0 start, doesn't happen in this series as well, we can see how well this is played on the side of EGP, splitting up Instinct since he was all by himself backing in that brush.
Crucially, the Haymaker lands onto 3 members there, Magical, everyone trying to pile in onto Surdy, but unfortunately, they don't have the damage left, especially once Jinx gets isolated like that, and there's no way that they can get through Skytech, who's just charming them, moving around, and making it impossible to actually get the fight they want.
And all that gold they were able to funnel into Instinct with those plates. Kind of a moot point at this time since you were gifted so much now for Surdy. Even if you can argue, Set with the gold, you'd like to put that into someone's hands like Bluster or Aspect. He'll take whoever's going to be fed at this point.
It's definitely going to be a challenge for sure, but EGP, let's see exactly what he can do with this advantage that he's gotten. Is he going to push forward into Ornn? Is he going to join team fights more? Without the teleport, it's going to be hard to really influence the map, but I'm wondering if EGP decide we just send the entire team topside.
At the moment, they're not. They're sending them towards that bottom half of the map. No objective to play around at the moment, but it doesn't seem to bother them too much. Instead, they want to see if they can slow down that Jinx. Make the timer longer and longer as it progresses, because they're on a time limit as well. Even if you have a Viego, you have that late game option there, you have to worry that in the mid game, the pick potential you have will eventually fall out if you're not able to close out the game quickly enough.
Ooh, Gamsu going for a little bit of back and forth. Actually getting the best of this trade.
I told you, Sam. He likes to play these tanks aggressively, and he finds great trades like that over and over again throughout EGL.
And I gotta say, it's a lot of the itemization choices that allow that to happen. Gore Drinker versus Thornmail, which Set a lot of his damage comes from basic attacks, and that's going to be a huge difference in that 1v1 matchup. So well played by Gamsu to really recognize the deficiencies that this 3-0 Set has.
Plus, then you look in the jungle as well. Bluster, Viego, he needs those auto attacks as well. It counters 2 members with 1 item. The flash coming in. Ooh, flashed from Chad Jungle a little too late. Scatter the Weak to be able to poke him out, but so is the Paddle Star. Getting a Sleepy Trouble bubble. Looking for another oh no, doesn't have the Paddle Star. Yep, there it is. Not even going to look to see if they can get enough damage on to Aspect to be able to force him out of lane.
I think Aspect might have even been able to have that kill had he hit level 11 a little bit faster. He's still level 10, so that ultimate not going to be able to solo out Chad just yet. Unfortunately for Aspect, he is sitting at about even against Zoe, which is not what you want, because Young is going to be able to influence the map pretty darn well once that Zoe gets online.
But it's taking some time for that. It is being delayed without the amount of pressure coming in from everyone. Trying to make sure there is not going to be any roams from either Young or Aspect. Nobody's really gaining a great foothold in that mid lane.
And you can see the vision going around. EGP trying to get some mid lane plays, trying to make sure Aspect is able to get somewhere done now that he's backed and has a couple of items. I like this vision play considering the Dragon's up in 19 seconds. This is where EGP really starts to shine and show that they can play the early game much like AoE did against them yesterday.
Right now, just going to be a vision fight between the two supports. Skytech, he's able to get a lot of control around this dragon that's going to spawn. EGP, the fallback plan of trying to stack up those early dragons. Their second one of the game completely uncontested by 100 Thieves next, unless, of course, we see the yellow. No, there's not going to be the rocket. I was hoping that Instinct maybe was just going to throw one out and hope to see if they can steal it away.
And I guess that's just a second dragon away. Infernal map. For this game, it looks like it's going to be a damage-heavy source, so both teams going to want to fight for that. EGP, of course, two-dragon advantage.
Surdy looks like he's at a bad fight once again. Can he escape this time around? He dodges away from the Call of the Forge. Uses the showstopper to be able to dodge away. He's got a big shield, trying to see if they can keep him alive. Getting the kick back, but he's still alive. Here comes the Sonic Wave, shut down. Over to Chad with the pull back in. He goes golden. Now the reinforcements are here. The flank coming in onto Chad Jungle. He's still alive. They're going to be able to get the kill on Skytech with an unleashed power. Not taken down twice. Blisters in the back line, trying to see if he can get a Blister, cannot get Chad Jungle at all, and now they are forced away. It's two members killed off on the side of EGP, but they still retain control around Rift Herald.
They do manage to get a little bit of control. Rift Herald, a bit of a sloppy start. You saw how much Set got caught out there, and Surdy able to dodge away from a ton of damage and delay. It just wasn't long enough. The positioning from EGP, not enough to get those extra kills.
The thing that's crazy to me, though, is that 100 Thieves getting 2 kills. They killed Surdy. They killed Skytech. They got shut down for themselves, yet they could not get the Rift Herald.
You saw how low the health bars got after the end of this fight, so it starts off, it looks fine, but this dodge coming in from the showstopper to avoid the CC buys so much time for the team, but unfortunately Skytech is the only one that can get over in time. Weiss also, perfect hook on the backside of that fight. It just doesn't matter. You see how low the health bars are. Chad absolutely can't get into the fight. Weiss can't get into the fight, and that's why you see the Rift Herald being taken immediately by EGP after this fight is over.
They're just so low afterwards. Despite getting 2 kills and getting a lot of gold for Chad Jungle, they have to still spend it. They still have to go back to base to be able to actually have that strength. Without Rift Herald now, it was an easy play from Surdy to go back top lane. He noticed that Gomsu was in the bot lane, so that's even more gold piled into the set.
And with that, it looks like EGP did manage to get an advantage even after a quote-unquote lost team fight. So we'll see what they're able to do with that. Rift Herald do have it for another 3 minutes. I would imagine that goes to mid. It's at about half health, and a charge will just about kill it, I feel. Like they have the ability to get this, and especially with Varus, they have the siege.
Yes, but is my big thing for the side of both 100 Thieves Next and EGP. As long as they keep those mid laners there, you can see that right now Young isn't in the mid lane. If they send him back there, his wave clear is enough to keep them at bay from easily taking down that structure.
It will be a lot more complicated if Young gets involved, but the question is, how long is Young going to spend up top? It looks like he will just send the wave and start rotating, so that's kind of a moot point anyway. Aspect is rotated, and will still lose the turret.
Yeah, minions were enough to be able to knock down that turret, and now they've sent back Young in mid lane, understanding exactly as you were talking about, Cage, that with Rift Herald, it'd be really easy to see if they can chip away or even take that tier 1 in mid lane, which would open up a lot of Chad Jungle's jungle and give Bluster even more control around that dragon stacking game.
What I'm curious about is what the next move is from both of these teams. Are we stalling out until the next Rift Herald? Are we stalling out until the Baron spawns in? Or are we just going to wait for Dragon, try to fight around that? Because 100 Thieves Next, they've looked for counter engages. They haven't really made a whole lot of proactive moves this game.
And this is the problem. You sent away your wave clear in Zoe, and now it's immediate call from Bluster and the rest of EGP. Boom! Knock down the structure with ease. They have even more control, more vision, pushed inside of the jungle of 100 Thieves Next. It's trench warfare when it comes to these wards, and every inch of ground is enough for EGP to feel confident around dragons.
And I like all this vision that they've managed to set up. You can see on the top side of river, around where Chad Jungle is camping right now, they know about all this on the side of EGP, and they're able to set up so well around this dragon because they managed to get that turret and because they've got the wave set up in such a good way.
But it's the ebb and flow at the moment for 100 Thieves Next. Despite the fact that EGP had that control, they had to recall, spend some of that gold. You can see the inventories right now. Mythics all across the board on the side of EGP, only the support missing it. On the other side, since Gamsu did go for that Thornmail rush, he is at a bit of a disadvantage in that regard, since you already have a massive lead gifted to Surdy with the Blade of the Ruin King 2.
It's going to be really tough to deal with Surdy, and now that we're in the team fight stage of the game, now that 100 Thieves Next has to fight this in order to not give up soul point, they need to be able to fight, and they don't have the ability to deal with this set yet.
All the Forge God, going to be able to get the knockup onto Aspect, the damage, it forced out the flash, but a triple knockup out of Gamsu, the kick, not going to be there just yet, they got the kick onto Bluster, but he's on the wrong way, and now Chad, he's finished off by the support, they've got Surdy trying to see if he can dive into the back line, but he has to peel back at the moment, they got the pick they want, they have one member already executed, a little bit of damage on Saskio, coming in from Instinct, oh, and Young snipes him, finds the play, and finds the pick.
Just too close to the wall there for Saskio, but getting the jungler down was huge for EGP. They might still be able to fight this dragon yet.
But Surdy is still in the area, and he is big. He is a good tool to be able to engage. He held on to the showstopper the entire time. All the while, 100 Thieves Next trying to take away some of the jungle and wrestle that vision control to make it easier for them to secure that dragon. Skytech looks like he's got out the flash coming in. Flashed away, return, and Skytech survives.
Those Merc Treads paying off huge dividends for Skytech. Just barely able to get out of the way of that hook, and Weiss almost had the perfect timing on that flash death sentence. It just barely doesn't work out for 100 Thieves Next.
But you can see neither team are relenting around the objective. 100 Thieves Next need to make sure they do not give over a third dragon of the game without taking one of their own. 100 Thieves are so close to being able to secure this, they got to be so cautious. Again, Surdy held on to Flash, held on to Showstopper. Now, Drowsy coming in, getting a lot of damage on it to Chad. Nice scatter of the week coming in from Aspect to Flash from Surdy. Not going to be able to get in range for the targets just yet. Taking a little bit of damage. Gamsu's on the wing, trying to be able to get out of the fight. A lot of poke coming in from Young. The Flash from Gamsu down below 50%. They've blown up Surdy. It's a killing spree for Young, and the jump in is not enough. It's secured by EGP. They sacrifice just the top laner and gain a kill and a dragon.
But that was so many kills back and forth. Once again, 100 Thieves Next, they get more kills. They objectively win the fight, but EGP get the objective and win the fight.
And
so
then
where
afterwards,
are we going with
they
this?
got the jungler too. You know that's Baron time, baby. And here we got to take a look at the fight, and it looked like a good pick because they got Aspect at first.
It looks so good, right? You have the initial pick, and you get it onto the mid laner. With Aspect down, you have so many options available to you, and you don't have to deal with the damage. But Surdy, able to position himself so there's no re-engage. It's Saskio here getting picked that really seals the deal and makes 100 Thieves Next feel a lot better about the fight, but it lasts so long that the respawn timers come back. And with Skytech getting away in that pick at the bottom, it returns to a 5v5 magical. It's back and forth, and it's the objective going over to EGP that makes 100 Thieves Next not able to capitalize on the kills they get.
You can see here, look at Chad Jungle and how he's positioning. He's trying to make sure he can get back into the pit and steal away the dragon. Unfortunately, he's so low. He jumps in, and it's the smite from Bluster because they got the Scatter of the Week knockback out of Aspect.
Very well played by Aspect at the very end to make sure the objective goes their way. The Baron has not been taken yet, so EGP didn't quite have the timers there, but Skytech's lurking around, might be able to... I actually might get caught here.
They haven't spotted him at all, actually. And he is in a great position to look for Instinct with the quickness, with the damage. They blow him up. Chad Jungle watches on in horror as all 5 members suddenly show up and dive mid lane.
And that's 2 quick picks for EGP. Once again, pressing on the pedal. They will be able to go for Baron after this, considering they took Chad down, and with Instinct down, there's not consistent damage available. So very well played by Skytech to get the huge flank and to get 2 picks followed up by that.
And here, there's not even an attempt by 100 Thieves to try to see if it can contest that. Without Chad Jungle, without Instinct, maybe Instinct could, no, it's not even going to be up in time. I was hoping maybe he could get up, toss out a rock, steal it away, but there was no hope. EGP have won these past fights convincingly after the dragon.
I mean, there was just so much difficulty here. You could see how close it was vision-wise that they spot out SkyTech, but he barely gets out, and like the mysterious bandit he is, gets in onto Instinct, and a follow-up by Saskio means no chance for that Jinx to stay alive. Chad Jungle, the unfortunate second recipient of that Chains of Corruption, also falls. Clean pick, clean getaway by EGP.
It's like a horror movie when suddenly the serial killer just pops out of nowhere and you're just spooked by that. It's a big old jump scare for Instinct. He had no idea. Honestly, I gotta applaud SkyTech on that one. Not only because that was some incredible skill, but incredible luck, too, to be able to avoid that. Now, Saskio, he's in danger of a kick coming in from Chad on top of Saskio, but he's still alive. They're going to be able to get him away. And here comes Surdy, trying to make sure they can defend the team. He's got them all zoned away.
Taking damage.
Trouble Bubble not actually going to be turned around. They got the pick on Chad Jungle again and lost nobody.
I cannot praise enough Saskio's Chains of Corruption. They're able to stop all the forward momentum from 100 Thieves next and able to get out of that unscathed.
Looks like Bluster taking a bit of damage. He'll be fine, though. Baron Buff helping out EGP as they see if they can rotate around. It's going to be a minute and 20 until that fourth dragon, a pivotal soul for EGP. 100 Thieves next. This is going to be risky for them because they just keep getting picked off over and over again.
And it looks like such a good setup, right? Chad Jungle goes in, you got the Call of the Forge God, you even have the ADC CC'd. But the Chains of Corruption stop so much of the damage that Saskio can actually just back up into the side of the jungle where he's safe, and Set can tank everything. Surdy is so tanky at this point in the game, the early advantage is really starting to pay off for EGP.
No one could fall off the pick from 100 Thieves next there, out of Chad, and then it got turned around. So much single target focus damage of EGP was able to take down these critical members. At this moment, though, 100 Thieves next are starting to get a bit of that scaling. They, like we said before, got Jinx on your team. You have Ornn 2, the ornaments, being gifted out for members. You already got that Frostfire Gauntlet ornament. You've got the Luden's Echo. What is it? Luden's Tempest. I'm trying to remember what they call it after that.
I think that's right.
It's Luden's
Sounds
Tempest
good to
now,
me.
and then it's something else after that. Because they changed the names of all the upgraded items, and they are waiting to see if they can get one for Instinct as well, if they can make this fight happen. But that is a nice Chain of Corruption again from Saskio. Young not going to be able to get the paddle start.
Oh,
here comes SkyTech getting a huge knockup, and they've got the flashes abound on the side of 100 Thieves neck. A lot of damage on SkyTech, still alive on the side, looking to see if they can get the snipe out of the piercing arrow. Everyone's still surviving. Nobody has fallen just yet with a Drowsy, but there's the body block of both Surdy and Aspect to make sure he's not going to fall too easily, but there are a lot of low health bars on the side of EGP. The Dragon has spawned. TP coming in from Gamsu to try to contest this one. They've got Drowsy on top of Surdy. They're taking low. He's still alive, but not the crit they needed to give him out of the fight, but they've at least forced away EGP from the objective. Aspect has to go golden. Unleash Power, not going to be enough damage on a Young so they can turn it around. Out of Gamsu, they have forced out EGP.
Oh, EGP not able to get the best of that fight. It took so long that 100 Thieves next had the ability to go back, teleport in, and the Call of the Forge God, even though it didn't make much of a difference in that fight, was still such a threat from Ornn that EGP couldn't fight.
And the big thing to me is the fact that there is just so much damage onto the side of EGP, where it seemed at first they were going to absorb a lot of it and be fine. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Oh.
Young, he's looking pretty dangerous here.
Golden.
And you can tell Surdy wants the fight. He's got that showstopper about to come up, but he has to wait it out. There's a big old punch onto Young, but he won't follow up any further.
Oh, Young taking the most of that hit, but that's all that's going to happen. I have to praise Young so much in that last big team fight. The amount of return damage that he was able to put after the fight was quote-unquote over meant that EGP could not go for that fight. Looking at this replay real quick, you can see it starts with the Call of the Forge God engage, but the Chains of Corruption, as you pointed out, Magical, too good to get the second hit, and no knockups were going to happen. From there, it looks like SkyTech is just going to come around, get a lot of damage, and make it work. But unfortunately, there's just not great positioning from EGP. There's too much disengage, and they can't actually seal the deal on this fight.
And on the retreat, you see how much damage they further inflict. 100 Thieves get so much pressure back onto EGP. SkyTech can't re-engage. That's then their big tool. Even Surdy here, he realizes he has to be the front line instead, but the poke is immense out of Young.
Yeah, Young definitely carrying the back half of this fight. Aspect, unfortunately, without Flash and only the Golden, can't do anything in this fight, gets trapped near the Dragon, and 100 Thieves next find themselves at their first objective of the game.
Getting that Dragon 2 to delay the stacking game that was necessary for EGP. The scaling option still right there for 100 Thieves next. As you can see there's that upgraded Kraken Slayer getting much more damage with the Infinity Edge Rapid Fire Cannon. Instinct is at that point in the game where if they cannot get on top of that Jinx, it is just going to be pretty much a 1v5.
I gotta say, Instinct is farming up a storm right now, 50 CS lead over his opponent in Saskio. It's looking like that's the way back into this game, right? The scaling option Jinx. But the question is, can they stop Aspect from just one-shotting it? Can they stop Saskio from deleting the front line so it's easier to get to Instinct before the fight actually goes the way of 100 Thieves next?
It's going to be all about positioning for 100 Thieves next, but I also think Chad Jungle is going to be critical for this too. Even if he's 1 and 5, at this point in the game, he is a kick bot. If he can get the right target, if he can get someone like Aspect, or even just Peel for Instinct, it's going to be perfect for how 100 Thieves next can play.
And also Young, the other dark horse of this game, trying to get the poke in, but here's the engage.
Man, the damage on to Aspect, and Chain of Corruptions misses this time around. Just look, oh man, those paddle stars poking out the members of EGP. Skytech, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This time, they were not fooled by that. He's running the other way, not near his team at all. He'll be able to survive, but he was not able to find that flank like last time.
Skytech is behind enemy lines this entire game, Magical. It doesn't work out this time because of the chunks coming out from Young, but it's still great that EGP are looking for these engages and trying their best to move forward and use the positioning and vision that Skytech's been able to put down.
So at the moment, 100 Thieves next, they're perfectly fine with settling in and waiting out this game. Not really looking to see if they can pressure anything until they feel fully confident to either take the Dragon or the Baron. Here, they are playing around making sure they secure that Dragon away from EGP. Again, to deny the stacking game. One away from an Infernal Soul. The amount of damage they could then inflict with Aspect and Saskio is enough to even get through Gamsu if they're not careful.
We'll have to see how EGP decides to play this. 100 Thieves next, completely in the driver's seat for the moment, but the Baron is up and the Dragon is a minute away. Which side will each team take priority on? We'll have to wait to see.
At the moment, the bait is being set up by 100 Thieves next. They had Gamsu and Chad on the wings to try to engage. Man, these paddle stars out of Young! He's landing them perfectly right when the team needs them most. He does not vanish. In fact, he makes the enemy vanish immediately.
It's Aspect and Bluster that are taking the majority of these paddle stars, Magical, and those are the targets you need to have alive. Bluster for the obvious objective take, but Aspect is a significant amount of the damage that this team can deal. He has 3 completed items, and those are going to be the difference maker, the ability to delete a single person on the side of 100 Thieves next.
Aspect was able to TP back, making sure they are set up to try to see if they can contest this Dragon and get themselves the soul.
You can see the positioning, very well done from 100 Thieves next. They are starting the Dragon off, but it's going to be a big fight if Skytech can get in there.
Poe coming in from Saskio, trying to be attempted by Aspect as well. Surdy on the flank. He has that angle. He has the engage with Skytech. They got the damage. They blow it up Instinct, and that's the member they need to be able to take out of the fight. They have to be careful, though. They lost Aspect, but they got so many low health bars on the side of 100 Thieves next. They've got Bluster in the fight. He's got the Heartbreaker double kill, and he wants more. Only Gamsu now remaining, and he is no more the ace for EGP.
Surdy with the fatty flank and Skytech with the 3-man knockup. Very well played by EGP to get that Dragon as well as the Baron. They are going for everything, and they prioritize the perfect targets in order to make that fight work.
This is what we were just talking about. They had to make sure that Instinct survived, and when he died immediately, the first casualty for 100 Thieves, it all unfolded. It all unraveled right before their eyes.
It felt like a lot of disrespect out of 100 Thieves next. They were standing way too close to the ledge without enough vision. And with Skytech available, you have to think that Rakan's going to come in hot. Let's take a look at that replay real quick where the Dragon started off, and it's really starting to chunk out Chad, who's taken a lot of poke at this point in the game. Skytech, easiest engage of his life, quickness into grand entrance, and everyone follows up on that. Aspect to the unfortunate death, but it's worthwhile to get out Instinct.
Exactly. His death doesn't mean anything, because as long as Instinct is dead as well, that's all he needed to do. He got the full combo off to blow up the ADC. The team was able to easily clean up from there.
Just an easy combo, and from there, EGP have swung this game into their favor fully. A Dragon Soul, a Baron, and a 6,000 gold lead to boot. They are ready to make this final push.
This is where we were even talking about the late game potential out of EGP with a Viego on their team and how much damage he can do. The carry for the team, plus all that poke they have from Aspect and Saskio to help facilitate these fights if it's not engaged quickly enough by 100 Thieves next.
I see Instinct has picked up that golden stopwatch, so it's going to be a much tougher instant take from EGP, but they still have the damage and the positioning available if they get the vision right, and they still have Skytech, who's going to be such a huge portion of this game and has been the entire time. His Recon going to be feared for the rest of the series for sure.
Oh, for sure. His Recon, these flanks he's been able to find over and over again, only spotted out the one time, and from there he's been waiting patiently to make sure he jumps on top of Instinct, especially as long as they get rid of Jinx. There is very little fight back on the side of 100 Thieves Next, and now that there's a Baron pouring into their base, 100 Thieves Next, they're trying to set up one desperate final fight.
And there's the engage magical.
It's going to just be 2 knockups, but nobody was in a position to actually follow it up. They have to actually fall back themselves, because look at Surdy that entire time wailing away mid lane.
That's the right call when you have a 4-1 split push, is to just engage onto one of the sides, but unfortunately, there's not a lot of mobility on 100 Thieves Next. They have to really commit if they're going to go in for a fight.
Here's going to be the first inhibitor.
Luster.
Cracked by EGP. Damage onto Chad while he fought with 30 mid lane. Yeah, can't fight against the boss anymore. He is waiting for his own flanks with Skytech.
And with that, they're relying on Gweiss to get these death sentences, but they're just not landing magical. There are too many enemies in the base, and the minions are doing so much work.
And the poke from Saskio as well. We already talked about that before. As long as he's able to land his piercing arrows, it forces out so many members of 100 Thieves Next. And Gweiss, he got chunked out from one arrow, had to go back, which meant there was no further engage potential that 100 Thieves Next wanted to go for.
And with this backup, EGP find themselves up 2 inhibitors down against 100 Thieves Next, and they have no objectives to really go for. All they have to do is push waves.
And for 100 Thieves Next, this is getting dicey. Look at how red that bottom half of the map is. It's going to be about 2 minutes 40 until the Elder Dragon spawns. Even though EGP, they are set up with good pick in their kit, they could wait it out. They can wait to try to see if they can force a fight around the objective 400 Thieves Next, since they're going to have 2 super minion waves pushing consistently back 100 Thieves Next.
Let's see if EGP can get this turret quickly, and if they decide to go further, they need to be decisive. They cannot wait around. You can see that the teleport is ready for Gamsu. He has the ability to come over to this fight. He's just busy for the moment clearing out bot.
And EGP are running circles around 100 Thieves Next here. They rotate top lane to take down the easy final outer structure. Only 1 inhibitor turret remains with no answer. Gamsu is still trying to push and hold at bay this bot lane, while the rest of the team is trying to make sure they just don't lose a 3rd final inhibitor to make double supers come from every lane.
And 5 members of EGP strong against this last turret. It's going to go down so quickly with Saskio and Aspect. There's nothing that 100 Thieves Next can do except fight the last fight. Because
Gamsu's still not there, he's recalling. He has a long time before he's going to be able to join the team. Here's that final inhibitor. Call of the Forge God finally coming through. A little bit of damage. They've got the play on Aspect, but goes Golden and Surdy the whole time. Trying to disengage on Young. He punches him to death with a haymaker. Created back, but now Bluster, he's got the resets if he needs to. Here comes Skytech. Knock up on a Chad. Another death in the pocket with Unleashed Power on to Gamsu. Instinct might have survived this time around, but nobody else really did. The damage is too much. Skytech's keeping him away. Double knockup coming in from the side of Gamsu, but he's going to be blown up himself with every structure now dead on the side of 100 Thieves Next. Even the ace coming in from EGP to secure game 1.
Clean game, clean fighting coming in from EGP to get this game 1, and 100 Thieves Next. No answer available for this composition.
And the thing is, too, You look at this composition by 100 Thieves Next. They have so many scaling options, but the problem becomes when you fall behind, trying to be able to see if you can jump on to the proper targets of EGP. Who do you go for? You go for Saskia, then you leave Aspect and Bluster alone, and then it pretty much goes in a circle there. Who do you really get in this composition? Well, you have one target. If they're out, it's over.
It was a really tough position for them to be put in, right? They got behind a little bit early. SkyTech made some amazing plays throughout the mid-game, and it was just impossible for 100 Thieves Next to come back, even with the Jinx scaling option.
And there we have EGP taking game 1 over 100 Thieves Next. We're going to give it back over to our lovely desk to take it away and dive into that game. So, Mark, why don't you do so?
Thank you so much, Alex and Cage, and nice casting on the first game, and also nice plays from Evil Geniuses, Prodigies, and 100 Thieves Next, respectively, as both teams were tugging and tussling back and forth here, as I'm joined once again by Jolly and Rebel Fox. But Evil Geniuses, Prodigies, they come out on top, and Jolly, I know you were just extremely excited throughout the entire game 1. You were looking at SkyTech as the MVP of that game.
The whole game. I mean, the whole game from the very beginning with the set triple kill in the top side. The quicknesses have never been quicker. They've never been more beautiful. I mean, honestly, this is a player too. SkyTech loves recon, and sometimes it doesn't really work out for the team. But in this kind of a situation, I guarantee you that part of the picks as well were recognition that the quickness can really help out the Syndra on that aspect, for aspect. So, I mean, I can't praise this guy enough, and I love supports.
Yeah, well, let's start the praise right off the bat with our first replay got going, as, you know, we got to see how SkyTech's quick thinking is able to save his teammate Surdy and set him up for a nasty triple kill on the top side of the map, Jolly.
The quickness thinking, if you will. Yeah, and in the positioning, there was also, I mean, yeah, I would love to see that replay right now. Because SkyTech takes the time here to grab this ward and kind of has a slow stroll up. And this is really where 100 Thieves realize, okay, they're going to initiate here. They're going to stop the recalls. It looks really, really bad for Surdy, but a beautiful showstopper to get onto the backside doesn't even allow anything else to come through, because there it is, the quickness. SkyTech taking the long trek up and around, landing it on those 3 and setting Surdy up with such a successful start. And that really just allowed Bluster to kind of focus on the rest of the map for that game.
I gotta be honest, when I looked through this entire game, I was a little worried from the side of EGP, just because it felt like their composition. They had the late game Jinx, they have this massive poke from Zoe, which got ahead very quickly inside of the game. It felt difficult to see where it was that you could find this advantage early on from the side of EGP, where it's like, okay, what are they doing? How are they actually gonna get an advantage over 100 Thieves? SkyTech. Every single time, every single fight, you find something advantageous, you find something that went in their favor, SkyTech's got his name blasted all over it. That is 100% the difference maker in this game.
Right, and to give credit back over to 100 Thieves Next, during that mid-game, even after that counterplay from SkyTech on the top side of the map, 100 Thieves Next, off of the back of Young, had an amazing Zoe performance, was finding bubbles again and again, was able to delay the Infernal Soul for about a few minutes into the game after the 4th Dragon intake. But coming up to the 5th Dragon for our final replay of our segment here, this is where SkyTech has to be sung praises here, because like you said, Rebel, this is a composition from the side of Evil Geniuses, Prodigies. Without SkyTech, it is so hard to find this backline reliably, Jolly.
Absolutely, and yeah, let's take a look at that second replay, because this dragon fight is absolutely insane. It's a bit of a slow start too, and I think part of the thing that we have to consider as well, EGP yesterday was trying to initiate these long fights. So in goes SkyTech right to start this one down, and immediately after, the rest of the team is just able to do exactly what they were meant to. Yes, Aspect does get taken down there on the backside, but it doesn't matter because you have Bluster doing so much damage, not even really being acknowledged. So EGP once again working with this splitting up the fight, or coming into the fight from multiple angles and finding so much success. But absolutely huge credits, hats off, crowns on to SkyTech in that position.
It's pretty nice to see that like a support has this big of an impact, especially Rakan, which we see so many times gets just destroyed on the way in.
He's so squishy.
Yeah, because he's so squishy almost all the time. But SkyTech seems like he's playing it like a brick because there's just nothing that could break it easily inside of those fights. So it was nice to see the flanks really creative, set a lot of his team up, not only like the top lane play like we saw, but the theme fights as well, to be able to put pressure onto Jinx and Zoe, who were able to kind of command everything inside of those 5-on-5s when they're the ones that get set, really led to the advantage here from EGP.
And it's really awesome to see from SkyTech, considering that he's not a tenured member on this roster for Evil Geniuses Prodigies. He came in for the summer after Mist I don't remember the details exactly of whether he was let go or if they just straight up didn't return to the Evil Geniuses roster. But Mist, if we remember back in spring, you know, a lot of the consensus and the, you know, from what we heard from the team is that Mist was a big vocal leader for that team. He was the leader, he was the one calling the shots, and a reason why the macro gameplay from Evil Geniuses was so strong during the spring split and going into Proving Grounds. Losing that voice, you know, clearly, you know, hurt the team at the beginning, but SkyTech has really found his place on this roster, and what a game to do it in the first game of our series tonight.
And not just that, but you got to consider too, Shoryu's not here. And we did see Saskio a little bit earlier in these matchups too, before we actually came out here to Boston, a little bit earlier in the bracket. But Saskio has fit in very well, and SkyTech has not changed the ritual that has been applied here, and that has been working really well for EGP, which is beautiful to see.
I can appreciate that because, I mean, you think about how EGP is built from the ground up, even in yesterday's series, how much was reliant on Aspect to do quite a bit, how much was reliant on Surti, their communication, their entire, like, design of how this team is going to go. To see somebody be able to take up the mantle of, I'm going to do well and I'm going to win it for my team from SkyTech is really big, especially because yesterday the bot lane had its problems. They weren't just, like, infallible yesterday. And you know 100 Thieves came with an attack plan with Instinct and with, of course, Weiss in the bottom side to try something into there. Nothing happened during the laning phase. They're performing better inside of fights. You can't give enough praise to these two for being able to find the advantage they didn't have yesterday in every game.
Yeah, considering that I think 100 Thieves' next plan of attack was destroy Aspect, make sure that he didn't get to play the game. They put a lot of attention into the mid lane, and even considering that there was a play from Evil Geniuses Prodigies to try and get Aspect ahead, but Weiss, you know, even though this was, you know, the first loss from 100 Thieves, we have to give a little bit of credit over to Weiss on the Thresh because he was playing some of those counter engages really well. But for Evil Geniuses Prodigies, they are the ones that come out on top for this first game. Now, going into game 2, you know, looking at how this series played out, does this mean that SkyTech no longer gets Rakan, or is there a completely different game plan here from 100 Thieves Rebel?
SkyTech is an amazing Rakan for a number of reasons. We're not going to dip into the AP Rakan train just because he was the one that caused all of these problems, but he is an exceptional Rakan. I think the counterplay was there from the likes of the Thresh out of Gweiss, but it was a little slow. Oftentimes it was SkyTech makes first move and then Gweiss K's counter move. If they want something that counteracts that, there are picks that work better into it. I don't think Rakan is necessarily something that's going to work every single time, so I don't know if the ban comes through. But if you want SkyTech to be in that comfortable place, you don't want him to be able to solo carry games the way he kind of did in this first one, or at least help support the team enough on his own, you're going to have to change something.
Just red side wins.
I mean, you know, Jolly was advocating it yesterday on the semifinal series. It's like, hey guys, red side has 100% win ratio right now, and if you
maybe pick it.
Yeah, you might want to pick blue side.
I mean, if the trend goes according to this, I mean, EGP is going to come out successful. There's an odd number of games, but we're going to have to see if that can be broken.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have to consider the 100 Thieves next. Their first pick was that Thresh. They prioritized it immediately right off the bat, and that allows you to get a hyper carry alongside it, an Instinct, you know, with the Jinx. You know, I don't think that. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily ban the Rakan either. I think SkyTech just played the Rakan super well and just found the right moments. So now I imagine that because this is just the first game of the series for this best of 5, 100 Thieves next, they might try and take a similar composition, just to have to go for a different plan of execution. But when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, game 2 will come your way as we're going to take a break, recharge, allow the players to recharge as well, and on the break resumes, Magical and Cage will be right back with more action of this series.
Hello, hello, welcome back once again. Oh, but yeah, I see what the production was talking about with my camera. A bit grainy, but it's okay. We all want to look at Sam anyways. We're getting ready for our second game in this third place matchup. EGP Game 1. They look really hot, especially with that recon flank from SkyTech over and over again.
But Rebel did bring up a great point in that it's not something you can repeat over and over. There are picks to counter that. Thresh, reasonably good at countering it, but something like a Braum or an Alistar, even a Leona, does such wonders against that pick that it's not reliable, and I feel like 100 Thieves Next know that and will be able to draft accordingly.
Well, we'll see if that's going to be the case, because I'm wondering what gets banned. Recon or Viego? What is going to be the true option, since 100 Thieves Next have opted to remain on blue side? They had side selection in both Game 1 and now Game 2, but they've opted to remain on blue, much to the dismay of the Desk and Jolly.
Well, we'll have to see what they do with this. I assume that they're going to try for either jungle or support as the first pick. Thresh, again, not a terrible pick, but into Recon, you can't let that happen. So either Recon gets banned away, or you have to change up your draft strategy.
So that's why I'm curious, though. I'm curious if it's the Recon, or there it is. I was wondering the Viego, because this is something we saw in the series against AoE. EGP, Game 1 and 2, they have both Viego and LeBlanc for Aspect in mid lane that looked so hot. Here, taking away that from Bluster, making it a little bit easier for Chad Jungle when it comes to maybe that mid game and how he wants to be able to deliver.
Okay, but if the LeBlanc gets through, I have to imagine... Okay, it does get banned away.
Through.
I don't know. I had a very fleeting thought in my head in a dream world where maybe LeBlanc gets through and maybe they don't pick it first on 100 Thieves Next, but the Zen going to be banned away, so keeping everything just the same on Prodigies. The first pick could be that Thresh. I don't think it's going to be.
Could be Thresh. There is also that Renekton that Surdy likes to play as well that is wide open for the tanky. But Varus, a takeaway, possibly from Saskio, a little bit more on that poke. But then again, Instinct has played both the on-hit Varus and the lethality Varus against Wildcard Red just yesterday.
I was just thinking that if Varus is taken away, then the Kaisa definitely a viable option, and that will be locked in for Saskio, so a very comfort pick for him, and a matchup that he knows pretty well. I believe this was the matchup he played yesterday in the series versus AoE, so let's see how this works, and if that Thresh is going to be picked up.
Here we're looking at that set lock-in for Surdy top lane. Could be Aspect playing it, could be SkyTech, but I'm expecting it to be Surdy because we've been seeing Gamsu on a lot of these tanks. He's been so comfortable on champions like Ornn, Sejuani, Sion, that taking that into any one of those matchups, Set is always going to have that ability to try to fight and push in.
Alright, so the Thresh is locked in. This does allow for that Recon to come in once again and set up a very similar comp. The difference is, with a lower range ADC, you do have to worry about picking your engages a lot more carefully.
And here, Syndra actually taken this time, but blind once more for the side of 100 Thieves Next. Not even going for the jungle here. This is something we saw last draft, where 100 Thieves Next really wanted to prioritize the bot lane and mid lane for Young. Instead of going for Zoe, they've opted to take away Aspect Syndra, but this gives Aspect that counter pick yet again.
And also, this might even be a Surdy counter pick because they have the ability to keep that set and maybe put it somewhere unexpected. But it will be the Orianna lock-in, so it's most likely going to be Surdy's set.
More than likely, maybe a small chance that SkyTech plays that bot lane, but typically you see Set bot lane when paired up with things like Kalista. I'm expecting that to be Surdy, making it a lot easier, and then they can first pick in this second part of the pick and bans, take themselves that jungle for whatever Bluster wants to be able to play into this composition already drafted by 100 Thieves Next.
So let's see what the next bans are. It's going to be that Renekton takeaway, so Gamsu going to be targeted, probably going to be put on a tank just for sure, so that Bluster can gank up top and Surdy can have the matchup that he definitely wants.
Here, 100 Thieves Next actually seem to want to force that set into the top lane by banning Camille. The Renekton actually banned buying Surdy themselves because that's also a difficult matchup for Set. To me, that's an interesting change and an interesting ban to start off by 100 Thieves Next. I would have expected it more to be towards jungle or maybe even towards what the supportive role could be for SkyTech, since there are a couple options. Like I said before, Set could be that option if they wanted to flex that around. And there it is, the Kayn ban, the comfort pick for Bluster taken away.
Okay, so still a few junglers left in the pool as Viego is gone. I think that would go to Diana if Bluster wanted to take that away. Still a very strong pick, but the Rakan being hovered, Skytech is saying, let's get the runaround. We got this on the second go.
And honestly, after how he played last time with having a set on top of it as well, and now you pair it with Orianna Shockwaves, looking even worse for 100 Thieves next on how they can fight against it. And if they're able to peel back, if they have some safety, like Tom Kench provides them with already having a Thresh too, this might mean that they can disengage a bit more safely for their carries if caught out.
I don't know about this Graves pick, though. This still leaves a lack of engage for 100 Thieves next, and yeah, you have the Scout of the Week Syndra combo, but that's not going to be enough against the team of EGP. They have so much ability to get away from stuff, and especially with Skytech on this Rakan, you need an ability to get on the team, otherwise you're going to find yourself on the receiving end of EGP's engage.
To me, this just looks like 100 Thieves next have set themselves up for a pick comp, trying to see if they can find out members caught alone. We saw Skytech constantly on the wings on these flank angles, but that means he's now a susceptible target to how much single target focus the side of 100 Thieves next have.
Okay, so the Nocturne being hovered is the last pick. It will be locked in. Does that go to Bluster or Surdy? I would imagine it's for Bluster, but still building towards that bruisery build. So 2 bruisers, no true tank. Don't really necessarily need one against a Varus, but it helps a lot and will be able to get in even more engage, which this team has really drafted heavily towards.
Nocturne had been very scary in the meta for some time. The fact that he was able to flex in either solo lane as well as jungle. Now, he received a couple nerfs, same with Stridebreaker getting nerfed a bit, putting him firmly into the jungle. But he is still a strong champion, even if we haven't seen him as much as we had been seeing him before. This is still a good fighting composition out of the side of EGP. They are constantly this all-in squad wanting to dive further and further into the backlines of 100 Thieves next. And like last time, even if there are a couple different changes for their team, it's very similar in function.
I really want to see how they play around Vision this time, because 100 Thieves next got caught out so many times by Skytech diving in way behind them and getting those amazing plays, but whether or not this is going to be an adjustment they can make remains to be seen. It's game 2, we still have a full series of 5, and it's tough to say whether or not this is the comp to beat EGP's dominant aggressive style.
And for 100 Thieves next, they have that pick potential to see if they can punish members, not exactly paired up with other squad members on EGP.
It's going to be tough, but looking at what both of these comps are trying to do, 100 Thieves next, as you said, a pick comp, but also has a lot of safety involved. They just need to focus more on keeping Instinct and Young safe. I think Young is going to play an even more important role this game than he did last game.
Well, that remains to be seen as we get ready to load up on to the Rift EGL Summer Showdown. It is our 3rd place matchup. Winner will qualify into Proving Grounds, skipping over the unified qualifiers. That is why we are seeing how each of these members, each of these teams will go into Game 2. EGP would love to see if they can jump out to a 2-0 lead.
Hermit has been permitted, and this will be the game 2 that decides the momentum of the rest of this series. You can see line of scrimmage coming out from EGP. 100 Thieves next doing the same, so it won't be anything cheeky, but about what you'd expect from such an important series.
But you know me, I do like my level 1 fights. I like seeing teams scrap immediately out of the gates here, not getting any of what I want. Instead, the team's playing it smart, playing it safe, cautiously. There's a lot riding on this for both squads. 100 Thieves next, they're a little bit lower down when you look at the point total in these Tier 2 tournaments from Risen, from Cup, and here in EGL, that if they don't automatically qualify for the Proving Grounds, they're going to have not exactly a low seed, but they're not going to have nearly as high of one as they would like to, which means competition will be a bit more fierce right out of the gates.
EGP, let's see what they decide to do with their early game. Last time there was a lot of roaming from Skytech, able to get that nice early topside play and get Surdy started right. Let's see if that happens again. I feel like 100 Thieves next are going to be more cautious to that, and especially with Chad on the Graves, has the ability to pair up well with Young as well as Weiss, so I would imagine it goes more towards the bot side.
An invade from Chad. It was completely spotted out by that ward they cleared, so Bluster will immediately make the call, try to reciprocate that invade, get his own red buff, a vertical jungle for each of these members. But I want to see how the priority is going to work with the fact that you have Graves starting on the top side and this Renekton on the bottom half, neither of which of these junglers really have that great of an early gank pressure. Both of them wanting to kind of clear out power farm until level 6.
They definitely want to power farm. Both of them have the option of going bot, but Chad already going towards the mid side, pressuring Aspect out. I like this move. It really makes sure that Young, who is important in this composition,
Look
gets
at
ahead.
this. Look where Bluster is. He went for that vertical jungling, and they wanted to see if they could punish Bluster taking red buff. He hasn't been spotted out. He wasn't actually able to secure the red buff, so he is forced out. Since bot lane had priority, mid lane, it might not have had full priority, but just having that threat of Gwei showing up meant Bluster couldn't get red.
At the same time, Bluster made an amazing escape there, not spotted out at all. They had to figure where his timing was, and he wasted the time of Chad, which is extremely important. Even though the red buff didn't go his way, it's still nice to get out unscathed and make sure Chad does not have the momentum that he would normally have.
But he is going to 3-buff Bluster at this point, putting this Nocturne a little bit further behind. That Paranoia spike, the gank potential you have with that. When you have a set, when you have a Rakan, even having an Orianna now delayed a bit longer, giving Chad even more control over the river.
Let's see what he manages to do with it in mid.
Just gets the flash out of Aspect. Aspect was able to force back Young pretty far, so there was not actually going to be any turnaround from the mid laner to try to see if they could answer that gank with the help of Chad. But getting a flash off that mid makes it a bit more of a target for Aspect that he now has to worry about since he's already slightly winning out in that lane.
And with that, it looks like the jungler will need some help. Bluster getting Skytech in. Maybe they go for the 3-man dive mid, but it's just unlikely at this point because, as you said, not great early game from Nocturne, not great early game from Graves. It's going to be about how you position yourself and if you can find the right positioning, because if you get a flash, that's just as valuable as a kill at this stage.
I mean, they both have decent early games, but they are very reliant on their lanes in these earlier ganks to help them out, set up these ganks. They really need them to back them up if they actually want any of these to work, which is why you see at the moment Bluster's kind of like, whatever, I might have gotten triple buff, but at least I'm maintaining some CS, so I'm not falling too far behind Chad. Well, Chad pretty much saying, I won this early game. I've been able to kind of delay and kind of keep in control of Bluster for some time.
But look at this play coming in. Once again, mid-focus coming in from 100 Thieves next, trying to make sure Aspect doesn't get ahead. And I think this is necessary because of how much AP Young is going to provide. The only source of AP on this team, mind you, and the source of single target delete that's necessary against the likes of Orianna and Kai'Sa.
And we saw this last time around from Gweiss too. Same with Skytech. Look where Skytech is at the moment as well. They're all trying to play around this mid lane. Gweiss has been waiting some time in that brush. He will spot out Skytech, and even with the red trinket, he's going to be getting that lantern. The Flay to interrupt, gets the flash out of him, scatter the weak. So much damage and first blood for Young.
Did not have the E available, just barely not enough time. Young able to get the damage and also the first blood. This is the start 100 Thieves next we're looking for, and now they got it.
Beautiful pick coming in from 100 Thieves onto Skytech, and gotta give massive credit over to that Flay.
It was really this nice hook into Flay to interrupt the grand entrance, and the follow-up by Young can't be understated enough. A perfect scout of the week into Q combo. Very well done by this 100 Thieves next squad.
And this is why we were talking about earlier, Sam. We were saying how great the pick out of 100 Thieves is. Any target, including Skytech, if he is slightly out of position, can easily be bursted down with the help of Chad, with the help of Young.
And with that, Gweiss just continuing his domination spree. Last game, we didn't get to see a whole lot of it. He was always on the back foot and never got the chance to engage. But when he has the chance to engage, well, Rebel Fox, get excited on the desk because you're going to see a lot more of this Thresh.
Oh, TP behind. Here comes Surdy. Gweiss taking a lot of damage, and he is dead meat here. The rush in from Surdy. The flash in onto Instinct. They want to gift the free kill to Sasuke. Here's the showstopper on top of Instinct with a lot of damage. But he's still alive. Finally, the double kill with the passive for Sasuke.
Well done. A nice counter gank coming in from EGP and a very beautiful teleport from Surdy. He is always involved.
What is this? 3 lanes essentially just winning out immediately because the TP from Surdy bot lane, the solo kill mid lane for Aspect, then getting the dragon on top of it all?
Wow, the Unleashed Power was still available for Young as well as the Flash. I don't know exactly what happened there, but apparently a nice shockwave from Aspect managed to get the solo kill.
This is a matchup we used to see all long ago when Syndra was all the rage back before all the buffs that now she has, or the nerfs and now buffs she's received. Orianna was always this takeaway into that matchup, try to punish, but when we look at this play, look at that ward. Look how deep that ward is placed by Skytech to make sure Surdy can easily TP flank.
And Weiss and Instinct, they don't have any options here. They're pushed up too far. Weiss thought he could get a little bit more aggression, but a minor step in Weiss allows this play to last a little bit longer. Unfortunately, that's still a showstopper onto a flashless Varus. There's nothing doing about that play, and well done for Saskio to pick up both of those kills.
That's the big thing, too, with that play, is the 2 kills picked up were for Saskio, this Kai'Sa, something that wants to be able to scale a bit more into the game. And when you have a beefy frontline like Tahm Kench, the earlier you're able to get things like Kraken Slayer, the easier it's going to be to slice through this catfish.
And really, Kai'Sa does need 2 or 3 items to take off in terms of power, so getting those items early means a team fight is possible even earlier. So if Surdy gets ahead and if Saskio gets ahead, that's a team fight already, but you have Aspect getting solo kills, so really it's just going all the way right for EGP.
So 400 Thieves next. They have to kind of go back to the drawing board. Their pick tools they have, trying to find out members caught out, a bit delayed. They still have that all that they can fall back to, and it will work out well. But when you have members that are starting to get a little bit out of control, like Saskio, even Surdy on his TP flanks, and you're imagining now that it's level 6 for Bluster, soon they're going to try to continue to escalate that priority.
That's going to be going topside with that Rift Herald. Chad Jungle probably going to pop it here just because of the lane rotation.
Looks like
and that's going to be pretty good play for 100 Thieves next.
I think he's just going to get the recall here. Already have the bot lane in the top side of the map, and you need to see if he can help out other lanes. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that mid lane play, just because Young is struggling. We might not look it in the CS, but that solo kill alone has set the pace for how far back he has to play and how cautious he has to be at every single step.
And Aspect can just play the zoning game forever, able to rely on his jungler to be in position. Saskio and Skytech also ready for a dive. Young is in a lot of trouble.
Oh, nice flash away from Young. Scatter the weak, not going to be able to connect. Nice battle dance to be able to escape.
But the thing is, only an Ignite was burned, so a very easy play for EGP to make. Low risk, high reward. If it works out, it didn't in that case, but again, Young still remains scared and flashless.
It doesn't matter if you get the kill or not. You got the flash, you didn't lose anything. What else was there to gain on the map? You don't have to worry about objectives. The Scuttle Crab was on the bottom half of the map where Bluster already was, and every single lane seems to have priority for EGP. 100 Thieves next are the only ones losing.
Bluster, despite being down in CS and levels, is still managing to find a lot of advantages here just because the rest of his team is winning. And once he has the ability to get into a fight, which with Paranoia, pretty easy, then he's going to be able to really skyrocket ahead of Chad Jungle, who hasn't been able to make a lot of impact with the 3-buff start.
Well, this is why we're saying that this composition, it might be slightly different from what EGP played in Game 1.
Shockwave.
It feels very similar here. Just forcing out Young over and over again. These shockwaves purely to make the life hell for Young mid lane.
And Young gets the blue buff, so at least we'll be able to sustain, but you have to feel like it's not going well. Aspect still in control with both summoner spells. The shockwave is down, but the poke damage can still come out.
Paranoia, and you cannot stop that Nocturne. Not at all. Not when he has the shield. Chad Jungle even realizing that it was way too late to help out, so he's just going to clear out the minions and understand that this early game is going so poorly for them.
It was a very interesting decision for Chad Jungle to give Young the blue buff, knowing that he was low health and knowing that Nocturne had the Paranoia up. Even if Nocturne wasn't in the area, he very well could have been, and that dive, pretty easy to do mathematically, so just a confusing use of the resources that 100 Thieves next had.
Young should have taken blue and recalled, in my opinion. Just get out of there, get the health back, get the TP back into the lane, whatever, because then it's more difficult for Bluster, for Aspect to commit to the dive, since you're going to survive through the burst potential that Bluster has, since he's only sitting on that Iron Spike whip.
It's going to be difficult, but look at this play coming in from 100 Thieves next. They have snuck into the bot side of the jungle. Chad has the Rift Herald available to push onto Saskio and Skytech. I don't know if he wants to use it yet necessarily, just because he doesn't know where Bluster is. It's going to be very difficult for 100 Thieves Next to push.
You can't dive this because it's Saskia. He's got Killer Instinct, got the big shield. You got Skytech on Rakan who could disengage as well. And now here's Bluster. That dive is impossible. This Rift Herald is about to despawn.
But at the very least, they are going to get the Cloud Dragon start. They know that Bluster doesn't have the ultimate available, so no engage possible unless Skytech gets a beautiful quickness.
With Skytech, there's the quickness of the Flay to be able to disengage.
Nice
Aspect on the other side, but they're going to be able to get the quickness onto Gweiss, and they blow him up. Unleash Power does nothing to Skytech. While they might be able to secure the Dragon, they lose their support along the way.
I think they're happy to make that trade. It is an objective at the very least for 100 Thieves Next, and Gweiss made it so that there was no possible follow-up on the fight. He gives his life, but again, it seems like the right move for 100 Thieves Next at this point in the game.
And here we go, mid lane utilizing that Rift Herald to get a bit of extra gold into Young, since he's still struggling against Aspect, who's got that mythic completed. You can see the lead, even if it's just incremental for EGP. It's into the right hands for their composition.
And looking back at this fight, you see it starts off. Skytech is in position to do the quickness, get in with a grand entrance. A nice spell shield also on the side of Bluster, but unfortunately, not a huge deal.
Nice hook, and here's Paranoia to disengage Young. He cannot follow up the hook, and Gweiss, unfortunately, he's being bullied, and it's a killing spree for Aspect.
Oh, unfortunate. He thought he could get Nocturne away with the Flay, but unfortunately the spell shield was up and he was ready for that. Young manages to stay alive, but only because Gweiss once again sacrifices himself. A free 1 for 0 for EGP.
And either way, that time around, the sacrifice is not worth it. More gold is piled into this Orianna. 3-0 at the moment. The curse was broken in the last game. Sam Surdy went 3-0 at the start and they won. Here, Aspect, he is 3-0 and he is looking on fire.
We'll have to see what they manage to do with this, but you want your gold on Aspect because, man, even if he's on a control mage, he can still do so much work in a game and might even lead to the carry potential. Can't underestimate, though. Saskia with the 2-0 and about 5 CS gold lead still has an immense amount of power with that Gale Force completed.
And that's the thing, is they have 3 kills onto their mid laner, 2 kills onto their ADC, neither of which have died yet in this game. Caster Curse inbound, but either way, that's where you need to allocate your gold for EGP. They're getting it into these critical members who will continue to scale as the game goes on.
And really, they're almost at the point where they don't need to scale as much. They have the ability to team fight. They know that they have an advantage right now, and there's not a whole lot that 100 Thieves Next can do. You see Gamsu, he's been in the game the entire time. Where has he been? Top lane, farming up, finished the Frostfire, and can't really do much more than that.
Love that. Saskia just giving us a little emo
Some
spam.
nice taunts.
Yeah, just the taunts there. Waiting for Skytech. Not exactly sure where the members of 100 Thieves Next are. So you gotta wait for a little bit of protection, your bodyguard to show up in the bot lane. And now they escort the minions, crashing it into the tier 1 turret in bot lane just to get a little bit of chip damage. But this allows Saskia and Skytech to continue to tag team with Bluster. Look for these plays elsewhere. Skytech rarely wants to even be in this bot lane. We saw it last time, and we're seeing it even more this game.
And with that, you can see EGP thinking about that Rift Herald. They have members up on the top side, and I think backing up Surdy is going to be the right call. Because again, Gamsu being in the top has just been pushing, doesn't have the ability to respond to any pressure towards that objective.
Lantern looking for the hook. Saskia is underneath the turret. He'll be safe. We even see it. Looking at how these mythics are starting to be built for each team. Oh, I like this play though.
Oh, the dive.
Chad. Look at Chad on the other side. The Paranoia trying to go for the dive. They're going to be able to get a little bit of damage, but Unleash Power, it's got a lot of damage, and they turn it around for Sky. Oh, they might have gotten one back, but now in the bot lane, they're getting the pull on Saskia. A lot of damage. The flash away, he's still alive. Getting a bit more damage.
30.
Where is the piercing arrow? Not going to be able to connect it. Instead, it's Gweiss. He is going to be the sacrifice for the team.
Skytech
trying to be able to get away, but now Aspect on the other side. They're just giving up on Gweiss, knowing the more important member is going to be Instinct. He turns it around on a 1, but he dies along the way. Gweiss barely able to limp it out. Surdy's on the wings, but he will not be able to continue that chase.
I don't know that I agree with Surdy wanting to give up the kill to Aspect. He was waiting around for too long and sacrificed Skytech needlessly. You saw how low health that I believe that was Instinct was, and it just felt like you could have prevented a death there. But looking back at the start of this play, it was the dive onto Young that went just a little too far. Yes, they get it, but Evil Genius's Prodigies don't want to give up their lead just yet. You don't want to go for one-for-ones when you don't have to.
The fact that Chad was there to answer the play and make it a one-for-one is big. And then we take a look at this bot lane, how much attention Saskio got, how much he was able to avoid in that fight.
So looking at this teleport, it was really nice from Surdy to come in, and unfortunately we won't get to see the remainder of that play, but he was dancing around Instinct for a very long time unnecessarily.
Okay, no paranoia for Bluster, and he waited out. No spell shield, killing spree picked up by Chad Jungle.
Ooh, the flash about 30 seconds away. Unfortunate for Bluster, will be caught out, and that might be the start of the game coming back to 100 Thieves next.
These are great picks that they're now finding for themselves to keep that gold lead or the gold deficit they suffer at least a small level. Oh, nice shockwave. Gonsu could not escape. It's the trade of your top laner's life for another dragon on the side of 100 Thieves next.
They could go for the Rift Herald potentially, but they don't know how many members were committed by 100 Thieves next to that dragon, and so will instead go for the mid lane and try to keep that tower alive as much as they can.
For the while, you see that 100 Thieves next getting a lot of damage onto that tier 1, should be able to get themselves the first tower of the game. Easily done, and a lot of gold over to Instinct. And we look at his itemization, he is going for the on-hit Varus build, giving a little bit more credence towards a late game scaling option for the team alongside Chad Jungle.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because as strong as the on-hit build is, and as much as you've been hyping it up, Magical, I feel like there's not a true tank on the side of EGP, barring Set, who isn't particularly tanky in terms of armor building. It just feels like lethality might have been the better choice there.
But at the moment, you're going to take a look at this replay. This time around, it looks like a much better play coming in from 100 Thieves next.
Yeah, it starts off, you see Saskio, they managed to botch the dive a little bit, but here's what I'm talking about, right? You see Skytech, he's getting in onto Instinct. Instinct goes very, very low, and then there's just some waiting. Some wandering around that didn't need to necessarily happen.
As well,
maybe Skytech was dead no matter what, but it felt like that could have been done a little cleaner to get Chad Jungle out of the area.
I will say, for Instinct, he played with that vision perfectly to constantly hide around Surdy, who was right on top of him, but he would just duck in and out of that brush, so he would lose vision, and each auto attack would be canceled.
It was definitely a difficult situation for Surdy, but it could have been done just a little bit cleaner. I think the vision dance is a little bit of a moot point because Skytech was in the bush anyway. So I don't think that was unintentional. Hard to say, though. Those plays are very high octane, and sometimes you just try to make the best play that you can.
For the moment, 100 Thieves next at least have an option to be able to fall back onto. See Chad Jungle having Collector already built up. 3-0. You're talking about not really too many tanks on the side of EGP. Well, looks like Chad Jungle is understanding that perfectly well. Wants to be able to blow them up immediately. Well, Instinct, you know, going for the on-hit build, but I feel like it's far more about that safety that it provides you with the Immortal Shield Bow shield that you get. To constantly kite it out, since you know the damage is going to come elsewhere on your team.
And with that, 100 Thieves next, just pushing onto the mid lane. Skytech in position, manages to dodge out Weiss this time, but Saskio, he's going to have to give this turret up. There's just no options left, not enough support from the team.
This is a good rotation from the side of 100 Thieves next to secure that first tower, the second tower, sorry, in the mid lane for the team, getting them even more gold, even if it was spread out between the members, and not as lucrative as you would like to get more gold onto Young since he's still suffering. It doesn't really matter. You now have a bit more that you can do to stop Bluster from easily diving your back line.
And Aspect in the bot lane tries his best to just push the waves forward, but he needs to be in these team fights a little bit more. Maybe that mid-rotation was more necessary, but getting the waves also a reasonable account for that part of the game. Everyone going to be taken aback because Dragon coming up in a minute 30, and EGP are looking to fight the Vision.
And all the while, you're just going to have pretty much everyone waiting it out, waiting for those plays. The eye was picked up earlier by Bluster. They now have that advantage to be able to play around Rift Herald and where they want to be able to pop it. And currently, EGP they're still in a fantastic position. Their two carries are still well fed, even getting themselves their own collector to try to burst through these squishy members on the side of 100 Thieves Next.
Saskio ever so close to that 3-item Kaisa power spike that's going to break open the game, but you know what? 100 Thieves Next, they have answers for it, and they're going to be fighting against this Rift Herald.
It's going to be an easy trade of a tier 1 for tier 1 earlier, now equating that mid lane pressure a bit early on the Rift Herald play by EGP. We still have 40 seconds until that dragon spawns. The point potential out of 100 Thieves Next to be able to set up around that and keep themselves at a scaling option.
I was about to say, the vision that they got from that play, well worth it to do it early. And you can see SkyTech even getting the flank position. I don't believe he was spotted by any wards, and he is in the prime position to get a nice
look
quickness.
At Gweiss. He is already wise to that.
Where is
you know
he?
What? We don't want to test that again, but god damn it, SkyTech. But the tech on this one, there's too many wards, though. He will be spotted out. Zerdy, are you going to be brave? It's going to be Scatter of the Week. Pull back in. There's a huge shield that has to flash back to the team, and he's gobbled up by Gomsu. And here's SkyTech with a re-engage. Getting a double knock-up. They've traded it back onto the support, getting a lot of damage onto Gomsu, but he's still alive. Chad Jungle as well. He's burning to the red buff. 1-for-1 trade. Top laner for the support. That's favoring the side of 100 Thieves at the moment.
And you gotta say, 100 Thieves Next, even though they do get the initial pick and they do manage to walk out with 4 alive, the health bars are too low, and they even stop Gomsu's back! Oh. That's huge, and that's gonna lead to a dragon for EGP.
That is definitely the dragon. 100 Thieves could contest it. Look at Chad Jungle on the side. Same with Young. They're waiting it out. They've even got Gomsu. They secure it! And Chad, even though he got knocked up, he's going golden to be able to survive. He could get out of there. There's the flash. There's the pullback, but the damage with the shutdown for Saskiao.
Not much you can do in that situation. The sacrifice, though, well worth it. Soul point for 100 Thieves Next, and even fight off a lot of health bars. So this Baron is not free for EGP. They're going to have to rethink the strat.
No, instead they have to get themselves vision control around it. The next objective for the team. Quite a while until we're going to have that next dragon that spawns up. But we got to take a look at this replay. And I love this from SkyTech. I appreciate his effort. But when Surdy got caught out, all of his effort, all of his struggle went to waste.
Yeah, the Death Push working out really well for 100 Thieves Next. They do find the tankiest member, but at the same time, the damage is there. They have 3 damage dealers, and it's enough to at least get most of Surdy's health down. It does require an ult, and that's unfortunate, but SkyTech for the re-engage, almost enough to turn this fight around.
It's very, very close for the team, and I think the fact that they had Chad Jungle so low made them think, hey, we can start up the dragon, it'll be fine, but Chad didn't back at all. He has that eclipse so he can heal off of some minions.
Yep, just a little bit of a miscommunication from Kaisa and Luster. Not able to get that dragon down, but they do get the pick in the end. And at the very least, it's a 2-for-1 fight going to EGP.
But we're giving that power over to 100 Thieves Next. Already having a very strong Brave 3-1 on the champion. Eclipse and Collector built up, waiting for that next item, and if he can manage to grab onto Infernal Soul. You talked about it earlier, Sam. There aren't very many super tanky members on the side of EGP. Well, yes, they're bruisers. They're not going to be something like Gomsu on this Tahm Kench.
It's going to be tough, and especially with so much... With 3 damage dealers on the side of 100 Thieves Next, they want this Infernal Soul, and they want the ability to poke down even harder with Syndra and Varus, and I think they're going to be able to get it if they can position correctly and stop SkyTech from doing whatever it is he's doing.
Aspect's pretty far out, and look at this collapse. Gomsu cutting off the retreat of Aspect, getting a little bit, getting the flash, not going to be able to connect Death Sentence onto it. Instead, it's going to be a TP used by Surdy to scare off the members of 100 Thieves Next.
Just a little bit too much of an overengage from 100 Thieves Next. They thought they had the ability with the Tahm Kench, but the Abyssal Dive is the only form of CC that he could get down reliably onto Aspect. Otherwise, Aspect still had the flash available, and although it's burned, EGP find themselves 5 members around Baron.
Chad also recalled, so immediately the call in from EGP to Baron.
And that's going to be a great call. They're going to get it down to about halfway before Gomsu's able to get in.
Please, okay,
SkyTech?
Thank you. I was about to say, please check the bush. SkyTech was pretty much getting away with it. I was like, no, you cannot keep getting away with this, Sam.
It's free real estate, Magical. Every time he's in a bush, there's no one who checks it. And SkyTech, you never know where he is. Always check your back.
Oh, look at the itemization, too, from SkyTech. Everfrost on
Ooh.
Rakan. They were talking
Spicy.
about this on the desk. The AP Rakan build that Skytech has innovated. This lockdown potential he now provides for the entire team with how immobile most of the members of 100 Thieves are.
And really, they will clump up a little bit. Instinct and Young especially probably going to be nearby each other at any point. Weiss is the only member that can truly peel for them. And Skytech just has a field day if he's able to get in behind, which, as last game and even so far this game has proven, he can do that.
That he can. At the moment, neither team going too far into either's territory. You can see a couple wards have been placed by EGP. Just to get a little bit of control around Chad Jungle's jungle. It's a minute until that dragon is going to spawn up, which could be soul potential. Out of 100 Thieves next, EGP are making sure they're clumping around. They have TP out of Aspect, and they could call him down at any moment.
Could, but at the same time, you do have to worry about how Aspect has the teleport, has the ability to back, and will be a lot stronger when he comes in. He did complete the needlessly large rod, and probably going to be going for a death cap next, just to increase his overall team fighting power. Skytech might be in a bad
really
position.
far, and that's going to be the flash in from Gwyce to try to see if they can collapse off Skytech and Surdy.
Sidestep.
Here's Paranoia. Scaring off 100 Thieves next. Gomsu a bit far out, but nobody's going to be able to chase him down. There's the flash in with a huge showstopper, but nobody's there. Shockwave onto 2, it blows up Gwyce, and here comes Skytech with a knock up into the back line, but now comes in Kaisa, getting a lot of damage onto Instinct, but he's still alive, cutting it back. They've got the kill, but it turned around. Double kill coming in from Chad. 3 members alive on each side, getting a little bit of damage onto each of them, but look at Surdy, he's looking for the flank. He wants to be able to chase them down. No longer having the flash, no longer having showstopper. Both teams staring at each other. It's a dead man walking scenario.
And no teleports on the dead members, so this is going to be a 3v3 for now. Young is going to back just to get his health bar up, but that dragon has spawned in, and EGP needs to get this to stop the soul going over to 100 Thieves next.
And here's the TP in from Young to make sure that they can try to secure that soul. Chad has started it up.
It looks like there's not going to be an easy contest. There's no ultimates on the side of EGP.
No, but with the Scatter of the Week missing, the members of 100 Thieves back off. They're afraid of getting corralled into this corridor. It's only a little bit of time until that Shockwave's back up, but same with Unleashed Power. Chad has to go back over the wall. Scatter of the Week connects, and the flash in from Chad! Double kill! Getting the kite of the century. He's still alive. The gobble up keeps him going. It should be the soul picked up by Chad. Even though Skytech trying desperately to fight back. He's locked down. Unstoppable Chad!
A flash to smite. It's not enough to get the dragon then, but it does keep him alive. And Chad Jungle, a double kill on that re-engage. 100 Thieves next find the play that they needed, in EGP completely in shambles.
And Young has to get so much credit for that play. The Scatter of the Week connecting onto all 3 members of EGP. Gets them the soul, gets them the Baron afterwards as well. And now 100 Thieves next. They have set up their late game insurance and Chad Jungle on Graves to carry them to success.
What a crazy fight coming out of 100 Thieves next. It looked so dire in the 5v5. Skytech at first looks caught out, but a couple nice sidesteps stop it, and the Paranoia re-engage, easy peasy for EGP. It's just not enough members can get over there. It's the immobility you talked about, Magical, only this time EGP are the recipients, and there's just not enough speed to get onto the members of 100 Thieves next.
And here, look at how far Saskia is. The other members wanted to disengage, but they had to stick around because Saskia was cut completely off from the rest.
There was no real options there, and 100 Thieves next see their options in pushing up mid with this Baron buff and the Dragon Soul. They're going to get this turret for free. The question is, how can EGP defend against so much power?
The only way possible is to kill Chad Jungle. Like in game 1 where they had that target set onto Instinct, this time it is Chad, but he has his own safety tools. The Graves a lot safer to self-peel, plus having a Thresh on his team to just in case keep him alive if he's a little too far out.
And with that, 100 Thieves next do manage to get a top lane turret as well. They're going to be doing a 4-1 push, but also controlling that jungle is crucial for 100 Thieves next. If they get the vision down, there's no way EGP can re-engage. So now it has become a battle of vision. And you know what? 100 Thieves next, they got the weapons.
That they do, and they're going to knock down yet another structure with the help of this Baron buff. What is that? 3 turrets they have now taken with this one objective secured. EGP looking for the angles for Surdy, but Skytech, he's not able to find those cheeky flanks just yet.
Not yet, but you can see Gamsu in the front. That's going to be the target for Surdy. Can he get another beautiful showstopper, and can there be follow-up? Because last time the delay on Saskia was too much to deal with, and I think that's just going to be a free inhibitor for 100 Thieves next.
Not even having to sweat about it, easily getting themselves out of there after taking that objective so they can rotate back mid lane, rinse, and repeat.
And with that, I don't know that EGP really has an easy defense. You talked about taking out Chad Jungle. I think it's going to be a little more nuanced than that. They have to get into Instinct and Young, but the only way they can do that is if Skytech can get in behind enemy lines, and he can't with all the vision that's been set up.
Too much control is there for the side of 100 Thieves next, and you can see how they're able to lay that out. They even got Surdy locked down, so he cannot stop them from taking a second inhibitor off of one Baron.
And look at the positioning of Gweiss. He's always in the back. He's always ready to throw that lantern out in case something goes awry. But Instinct and Young also staying in a great position. Chad Jungle, but the default frontliner, has just been doing an amazing job of zoning. Looking back at this replay real quick on how the Dragon went down, you see Chad Jungle goes out immediately, but knowing Gweiss is there, he's free to flash in for the Q and get 2 kills for free. Young just wailing on Surdy from that, and Skytech, unfortunately, too late to the fight, can't stop anything that's going on with this Dragon.
I still applaud Young there. That Scatter the Weak won that fight handedly for 100 Thieves next. It hit every member there. I'm sure only 3 of them were there, but that's all you need. That's what you need to have that much damage poured on, so that way Chad feels empowered to go back in, to dive in, immediately kill 2 members, and only Surdy was there then to face against everyone on 100 Thieves next.
Very well played, and you can see that he is starting to get those giant items available. He has the Death Cap, he has everything he needs, the Ludens, the Seraph, Embrace, the boots, even the stopwatch in case it goes all wrong. He is a monster considering how poorly he was doing in the early game.
I mean, poorly on Graves just means that you're not able to get super fed. He didn't really feed himself either. He was able to hold on to his own, and now look at him. He's pretty much this unstoppable beast. He's got 4 completed items compared to 2 on the side of Bluster.
Including the Spell Shield, which is crucial against a team that likes to engage with a single spell, whether that's the Showstopper, the Paranoia, or even the Quickness plus Grand Entrance. Spell Shield, necessary.
Look what he got now.
What has he got now?
Guardian's
the
Angel.
GA.
That now would
That's
just
gonna
doom.
be tough.
You have to hope that you somehow can catch out Chad completely by himself, and I highly doubt he is going to be anywhere without his team at this point.
No, he does have the tier 1 boots, though. Had to sell tier 2s in order to get that done. But you know what? He is A-okay, as you said. The team is always going to be nearby him, and he has the ability to tank up a lot of the initial burst that EGP has.
And he does a lot of damage as well. Sitting on 12 stacks of Dark Harvest here, 34 minutes into the game, with the Elder spawning 30 seconds away. They have set themselves up to get another objective while EGP are trying. They're grasping at straws to see if they can fight back around the pit. And
it's looking like that's not even an option right now, Magical. EGP don't have the vision set up. They don't have the ability to engage. And this Death Bush, just as scary as it was before.
Oh, not going to be able to land Death Sentence on to Bluster. The rest of the members are waiting for Surdy. He has a flank. It's not Skytech, but Skytech's taking a lot of damage. Here's the Paranoid. Nice Scatter of the Weak to disengage for the moment, but Surdy's in the back line, getting a little bit of damage on to Chad. And look at Saskio. He's trying to survive, but no! The flash coming in, and Chad can kite it for days. He's still alive. Shockwave only onto 1 member, but it is a clean ace for 100 Thieves next.
The scaling was there, the fight was there, the vision was there, Magical. There was no way 100 Thieves next could lose that game, and EGP find themselves in sorts as the series goes 1-1.
And now we have a series. 35 minutes in, 100 Thieves next strike back at EGP. Chad Jungle on that Graves, 9-1 at the end of it all.
What a game coming out of Chad Jungle. It looked like a slow start once again, but this time he's able to come in, and that huge fight around the Infernal Drake was so incredibly big for him. He's able to complete all his items, he's able to do damage, and the team falls so well together when they're able to get the disengage correctly.
Looked amazing from them, and while, you know, a lot of focus is on Chad, I'm going to keep praising Young in these plays. His Scatter of the Weak in that last fight to knock back Skytech the moment he tried to go for Grand Entrance again was perfect.
and Surdy trying to get in on that last fight, just unable to tank up the damage that's been built up by this entire team. The on-hit build from Varus, all of the items on Syndra, and even Chad Jungle were just too much to take on as a single bruiser.
And with that, we have a 1-1 series going into Game 3. We're going to hand it back over to our desk, and they will break down Game 2. So, Mark, take it away.
Thank you so much, Alex and Sam, a.k.a. Magical and Cage. Sorry, you know, I know I'm on a first-name basis, you know, we're cool like that. But congrats to 100 Thieves Next, as they are bringing us to a series, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be super competitive. We called it at the beginning and the top of the broadcast that we're going to go to more than likely a full 5-game series, as both of the teams have so much on the line, slugging it out for both of you know that final Proving Grounds qualification spot, but also just for Pride as being the best team coming out affiliated with an LCS team. Now, going over to you, Jolly, I know you wanted to talk about this composition from Evil Genius's Prodigies, because you were actually really excited about their full-on committal and the dive potential.
I was like, you know what, this is very confident. It's incredibly aggressive. Even trying to take some vision control as well and force that as a priority for 100 Thieves with the paranoia, and then leading back in with Surdy on set, which is so incredibly strong and really just kind of controlled the location and positioning of the fight. On top of the shockwave with the quickness, I mean, I was stoked to see how that could come through, but they really never got much of an opportunity to get that full engage to work whatsoever.
It was tough, because like when you see a composition that's designed around like a Nocturne dive with an Orianna, you're always so excited that you get that explosion inside of the backline, but it just never seemed to come through. And you look at tools like Thresh, who's able to pull people out. You think like Tom Kench, able to eat people, protect them in that regard. And then even like tight back from like Varus. We saw that in the previous game where, Varus ultimates were really good for disengaging, Graves E. It's really difficult to get something to stick, especially when you're not super far ahead inside of the game.
Yeah, overall for 100 Thieves, they are super dependent on vision control and getting Chad and Weiss to link up as that Graves Thresh combo, and it's all about picks. I mean, whenever we see Thresh Syndra, it's kind of like an old school composition back in Season 4 where it's all about setting up vision control. The only thing is that we didn't get to see the Elise, but if you want to go really full old school, those 3 combos right there, Syndra, Thresh, Elise, you pick one person on the map, you set up vision, they die. But we have to look at how EGP were able to execute their composition, because towards that mid game, we saw in full effect who their target was, and it was Young Mid here, Jolly.
It was. This was one of the early replays. Actually, it was less than half through the game, and it was the start of the attempt at really capitalizing on this aggressive play right here. The paranoia does come through. We'll see as they set this one up. There we go. Okay, all right. I marked it a little bit early then. SkyTech coming through, and this is what we saw exactly from the previous game. Trying to jump behind from the other side. The paranoia after Aspect gets rooted down and forces the flash away from the recon right there. So they did pick up the kill, but Chad was right there with Syndra, and it meant that play really did not go well. This was honestly just impressive due to, I've loved to see these incredible hooks from all of these Thresh players. But as the fight continues on, I mean, you can just see how much power Graves has. There was a missed ultimate, but it doesn't matter. And this is just the start that spiked Chad's Chad game.
Very, very Chad gameplay here.
That it was. I also have to say, like, the early game was good, but it wasn't sufficient, I think, to take completely over, which was the pain. And some of that catching ability, it comes to, like, frontlining and your ability to kind of focus down members. And we had a replay or something set with a Nocturne who was able to come into a fight, which is where I was able to write something down, where finally I get Instinct to play Varus, and we got off of the Saskia Varus, which means we got O on hit. That's the preference that I have all the time, and it's so much better when you're catching people that are coming in, because you get to turn, you get to put damage, and it's consistent. You're not just like throwing a single arrow and then dying because Nocturne's ulting on top of you. You have a chance to fight when people actually get on top of your character.
Yeah, combined with Halo Blades too, you have a great start to ramping up your attack speed as well. And I know Rebel has just been a huge fan of on-hit Varus as well, because every single time we've seen it throughout EGL Summer Showdown, it seems like the lethality Varus, you're just firing arrows from a distance. That seems to be the more popular option at the moment. But you're right. And I think the other thing to note here, too, is when you are considering that the amount of safety that the Vars had in this game, you have Syndra Scatter the Weak to prevent anyone getting in close range of Vars. You also have Smokescreen, you have Flay, and you have Box as well. And if worst comes to worst, you got Gamsu right in your back pocket to devour you if things get too hairy. But the real story was Chad Jungle and Gweiss basically linking up and dominating the Rift, because we talked about how with all the amount of engaged and hard commit options you have from EGP, you would think that EGP should be able to have the advantage here. But when we look at that final Dragon fight, you just see how well, because Chad was accelerated because of those constant picks that he and Gweiss made throughout the game there.
And that's actually, let's take another look, because we have that replay. And this was an exceptional fight. This is really where things turn the tides. You get the Infernal Dragon Soul, and you get the absolutely incredible play from Chad here. I thought this was the Dragon play. Maybe it's not. Oh, no. No, it is. Okay, all right, it leads into it. So we have this whole fight that leads up, an amazing-looking shockwave, and then Skytech goes in and gets instantly melted down.
Notice, if you will, that Instinct won on the backside, even though Sasuke had an ultimate with the shield and everything on top. But some of that individual play did come through. We saw Chad Jungle finally step into that role as the Graves, where he basically jumps into the pit. He's able to do everything. But also, I had a word written earlier on the board that I had to erase, which was Syndra. And that's because Young Mid on this Syndra, when he's able to put damage into the backline, you're going to see that right there. Filthy amounts of damage, being able to set people up. When that dive isn't working and they have to play as a 5-man unit, there is nothing they can do to try to deny that Syndra damage from hitting into their backline. You saw 75% of the health bar erased. That sets up the Elder or the Dragon Soul to come through from the side of the Infernal Drake. And this is also what really got their gold lead, because this also leads to the Bear. And that was kind of the close out here for the team.
Yeah, that Scatter the Weak, honestly, they were coming through really, really strong for Young. And we saw Aspects run the Syndra yesterday and then earlier today, obviously, in game number 1. And while there were impactful plays, it just wasn't quite to that caliber where Syndra was able to sit on the backside. She wasn't priority target and was able to just throw stuff in because you had Chad going in, soaking up damage, but also taking lifesteal from it.
Yeah, and you also have the safety from Gamsu, or you have Thresh as well providing backup and assistance. And I just have to say, you know, Chad Jungle in the first game on the Lee Sin, you know, he was trying, he was going for the insects, he was going for some of them, you know, half of the insects he did manage, but he still died. The other half, not, you know, it did either the enemy like flashed away at the last second, and so the plays didn't come through. But this this Graves gameplay, very PogChamp.
And
this is a fair point.
The curse. All right. Come on, production. The curse is broken. It's crossed out with red.
We're playing keep away with the production cameras at the moment.
Oh yeah, from Jolly apparently.
Yeah. now going into game 3. EGP and 100 Thieves are tied 1-1 apiece. We know that this is going to be a very tight series, and we've learned a lot from 100 Thieves going into this game too, that now when Chad and Gweiss are on the same page and they're linking up, Chad is now a formidable threat, whereas, you know, you look at Bluster, he took the Viego once again, but he can't, or not the Viego, the Nocturne. This is another champion that we've looked at where he is relying on the rest of the team to not fall dastardly too far behind so that he can access the level 6 and his first mythic item purchase as well, so that he can start making impact in the mid-game plays. But if Chad is coming online in the early game, then you have to wonder, you know, is this where we see Bluster picking something that is more early game oriented here?
That's a good question, only because we've seen now, I think, 2 games in a row, basically, where the team is set up to play towards Bluster, whereas in the earlier phases, especially yesterday, we saw the opposite, where it was more Bluster playing towards the lanes. That's one thing to consider. Another thing on that alternative is game number 1, there was a lot of threat that led to control of vision, but also just allowed Skytech to play out of his mind. Skytech had one really disgusting-looking flank that didn't quite amount to as much as we wanted it to, but wasn't able to find the same level. Anything else that's a bit more threatening might open him up a bit more so that he can get back into this one, bring them to a 2-1.
And I'm not sure if he built the Everfrost in the first game. I don't recall. I don't believe he did, but he did in this second game, so it was a good attempt, but it just didn't really pan out.
Yeah, well, it does make Recon a little bit more squishy. It's a high-risk, high-reward situation. You got a little bit more damage. I know Rebel has been asking for the AP Recon for quite some time as well. Unfortunately, it didn't really pan out well for SkyTech going into Game 3. Before we go for our break, we want to quickly show you our updated brackets so that you get the chance to see what is the score like for both sides of the coin, as there are 2 matches going on right now. So 100 Thieves and EGP are tied to 1-1, whereas Wildcard Red are leading that series. But, you know, for the side of EGP, they will be taking the red side going into Game 3, which means that for 100 Thieves next, they're on blue side again. I mean, they technically won with the blue side, and so, you know, now, Jolly, the red side 100% win ratio is no longer a thing, but 100 Thieves, I think for EGP, they're more than content. Well,
Yep. Curse broken.
Just make sure if that wasn't clear enough, all the gamers at home.
There is an X on there. You can't even see it. They're just like, curse. Rest in peace.
Yeah, but EGP, they're going for red side. I wonder what are some of the adaptations here, because you consider that 100 Thieves, they switched their first pick priority from Thresh to Varus, and, you know, I wouldn't say that the Varus was the seal in the deal, because it was just really the way that Chad and Weiss played on the map.
Yeah, you know, and Weiss has played the Thresh 2 times now, but the Recon has been the priority anyway for SkyTech, and so you can imagine that they're going in for that really aggressive playstyle. So maybe just taking a little bit of a step back, trying to focus on getting a little bit more initiation, a little bit more of that front line, because that's really what provided Chad and Young to be able to get off so much damage. And since those are kind of the players that they should be focusing on, at least definitely Aspect, like we saw yesterday, that style will probably end up working for them. And if they can find another win on the red side, then, you know, EGP is at least feeling good over there.
There's something that's popped up in 2 games in a row now for top side, which has been the set pick for EGP. When is it that we're going to get that flexibility into the mid lane? I want Aspect to say it with his chest into mid lane, because that's going to open up Bluster to play into that lane. That's going to let him pop off the way he did against TSM, and it opens up your draft to potentially play back to Surti with a counter pick, especially on this red side.
All right, well, we're going to have to see what the adaptations coming out from Evil Genius's Prodigies are. More than likely, we want to see this full 5-game series come to fruition. You know, for me, I technically predicted EGP, but, you know, we still have 100 Thieves. Honestly, either of these teams could take it, but when we come back, Magical and Cage will take us away for Game 3. Don't turn away, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back soon.
Hello, hello, welcome back everyone. We're getting ready for Game 3 in the third place match. The winner of this series will make sure they skip the qualifiers, go automatically into Proving Grounds, and we have a series, Sam. It's 1-1.
It's really close, and honestly, I'm surprised both these teams are playing the same way. They're both going for these big mid-game team fights, trying to play for the late-game scaling, and it's worked out both times, but on different sides.
Right, that second game from Chad Jungle especially, even Young on that Syndra, he had a terrible lane phase. It was so difficult to be able to go up against Aspect, but once it came to the fights, once it came to playing with the rest of his team, he was a pivotal member to make sure he could set up Chad Jungle.
Absolutely well played out of that Syndra. We saw the triple Scatter the Weak. Amazing stuff coming out of Young, and I'm curious to see whether or not he gets that Syndra again as we go into Champ Select.
And with Game 3, we are sticking to the same sides. It was EGP who got side selection this time around, and they elected to remain on the red side, which means that 100 Thieves next, the team that we have seen, only team so far to be able to win on blue, at least that we have covered thus far. Looking pretty hot, and I'm curious to see what changes EGP will bring into this game.
Well, so far, not a whole lot. It looks like the Ziggs is going to be banned away. The Xin likely to follow at some point. And I don't necessarily think they need to change up the bans. The picks might need to be a little bit different just to counteract Young a little bit. Maybe even try to go for a later mid pick just to maintain flexibility. And the set probably needs to continue to be taken.
Well, see, I don't even know if I'd really change what Aspect played into Young. We look at the laning phase. Look how dominant that Orianna was into Syndra, getting a solo kill, constantly being this critical member for the team fights as well. It's really the execution that it all came down to for EGP, and I'm even wondering for their side if maybe it was the Nocturne that they had for Bluster, where at first it looked great once he hit level 6, constantly looking for these dives and these plays, but after that we just really didn't see this Nocturne have that pressure that he had on Viego before.
It's definitely an adjustment, and Bluster will need to think about what he wants to change up. I don't know if that means Diana, I don't know if that means Volibear, or even Olaf somewhere really down in the list of junglers that are meta right now, but it does need to be changed because Nocturne is not going to work out if you don't have a team that dives behind you.
Looks like EGP, instead of going back into the Orion Syndra lane, they're the ones who take Syndra, knowing that probably going to be that Orianna on the other side. That's typically the matchup we have seen into it. Azir could be another one. Young has played that a bit. We could possibly see it. I know Bradley was really on to the Azir in their series against 100 Thieves next, so I'm curious to see what Young feels more comfortable playing into Syndra.
And look at this denial strategy coming in from EGP. Instead of going for the flexibility in the first couple picks, they are instead going for the Syndra and the Thresh to take away from Gweiss. So really making sure there's the all-around aspect as opposed to the full engage that SkyTech has been playing with the Rakan.
And Tahm Kench gets locked in. More than likely going to be Gonsu. Could be flexed around. Doubt it, though. And Young going for the Zoe matchup into Syndra as opposed to trying to go for more of a true counter. Purely wanting that split push, well, not split push, the wave push potential that Zoe provides, and then going elsewhere, tag teaming with Chad, trying to impact the side lanes, and even having that explosive bit of damage, especially if that Jhin gets locked in.
It depends. Okay, so it actually will be the Jhin. Fourth shot for the third pick. Interesting choice for Saskio. I would think that the Kai'Sa would still be relatively high priority, but I guess when you have a Thresh, you could do a hypercarry. You could even do something like the Jhin, who functions like a Varus, just with fewer shots.
And I'm definitely curious about that Jhin pick. We haven't seen too much Jhin. He kind of has hung around on as that niche pick that some players have gone to. If usually things are banned away here, like you said, there were options still left up for EGP, but Saskio wanting this Jhin more for that mid game and even having that late game scaling option with the champion. But I'm just so curious on how they're going to build around both Syndra and Jhin.
Well, they're definitely going to need some form of engage, and I think that comes from Surdy. Again, the set still available, but they have taken away the orange, so at the very least, I don't know why they had to ban that. I guess the Tahm Kench could be flexed.
It could. But
maybe?
I expect Gamsu to play it, just because he's
Yeah.
been the one more than likely to play it when 100 Thieves next do draft it. And there's that Volibear. You had talked about the potential to flex outside of just going for something like Nocturne for Bluster, and Volibear has been a pick we have seen really rising up in priority. 11-14, we really saw him be more powerful.
Yeah, we saw Wildcard play this yesterday when we were looking at the
come on.
stats, and I just think it's
Oh!
a really strong pick. But Chad Jungle deciding we're going to be aggressive against that and picks the Kazakhs instead. So really going to be an interesting matchup in the jungle to see if the early game starts to come out this time, or if we continue the scaling game like we've been seeing the last 2 games.
And this is the pick we had talked about last draft, that Chad Jungle in Game 2 against Wildcard Red was able to deal the first blow to Wildcard Red. Their first defeat that they have suffered in EGL was because Chad Jungle played this Kha'Zix, the bruiser-ish build that he was able to go with Gore Drinker on top of lethality afterwards. There's a lot of... actually, no, there aren't that many tanky options on the side of EGP, because normally we've been seeing Volibear go for the Divine Sunder, usually going for Zonias afterwards as well, and a lot more susceptible to something like a Tomcat annihilating him.
Well, maybe this is just where you start to change it up. You maybe go back to the former Bruiser builds that we've been seeing. Maybe go for the Sterix instead. But honestly, it all comes down to what Bluster decides to do. And I feel like the engage is there for this team. But they've also drafted a ton of poke for EGP. And whether or not that works against 100 Thieves Next, it's going to come down to positioning. And I think they're up to the task.
But there's a lot of poke on the side of 100 Thieves Next as well. Both teams have really good siege potentials to set up as well. I love the flank options that 100 Thieves Next have going against EGP. Of course, they will have to be incredibly cautious, since we're expecting EGP more than likely just going to try to whittle down the health bars before actually going for any engage.
I think that's going to be both sides, right? It's just a siege battle back and forth. But also, I like that EGP has more of an option for the 3-1-3-1 or even a 4-1, because Suri does have a lot more split push available than Gamsu you would expect. Just because Jace has such a strong mid game and has the ability to poke, he's going to be crucial in this team composition.
But here we are loading up for Game 3. It is tied 1-1. The EGL Summer Showdown third place matchup between 100 Thieves Next and Evil Geniuses Prodigies.
And you know, I'm excited about this match, Magical, because this is going to be a break point. And also, I love seeing Volibear personally. I know that he's been meta for a long time, but it doesn't ever get me tired of seeing the Big Bear and his dance spam.
You see how all the players except for these on top lane, actually no, all the players, only the players on EGP set themselves up for the line of scrimmage. A lot of pings coming in from 100 Thieves Next as they try to circle around Surdy. Gamsu was able to spot him out, and they're hanging out completely unawares that they are right there, right around the corner. But if Surdy's able to get this recall off, only about 2 seconds left.
He
There
got
it
it.
is. He got it.
Very, very close, but well played by Surdy in particular to get out of that position. 100 Thieves Next. It's not too much of an investment. They just send their bot laners back to bot, and all is good. The question is, what will this influence in terms of jungle priority? Because Chad Jungle is starting on the blue side. You can see the shift coming in from Bluster to go towards the blue side.
I also like, when I look at a team that drafts something like Kha'Zix, like how we looked at Graves in the previous game as well as Nocturne, how well can their lanes set them up for these early games, especially for something like Kha'Zix? Because Kha'Zix, when out of control, it's not going to be stopped. It's nearly impossible to stop, especially two champions that are as squishy as Syndra and Jhin tend to be.
It's going to be difficult, but the question is, can he get the positioning? Because last game we saw Assassins versus Squishy, and it didn't work out so well for EGP. The question, is Chad going to be able to do that, and can he get follow-up from the rest of his team? Because it's looking like they're pretty immobile as a whole.
I doubt we're going to see anything from these junglers for some time. Just going to power farm, power clear up for a bit until they feel confident enough to play around those lanes. Beforehand, it is going to be the trade of blows between the laners themselves on how they're able to set up for the junglers to then show up and get those kills.
And it's looking so far like Aspect does have a little bit of an advantage. He did get the earlier level 2. But whether or not this mid lane is going his way, I think back to game 1 where he was able to get an advantage. I think he can do that again.
That is usually how the matchup between Syndra and Zoe works. If you try to go just purely into the 1-to-1, 1v1 fight here between Young and Aspect, Syndra should be able to win. Anytime you portal jump, it's so easy to line up a Dark Sphere with Scatter the Weak. But the thing about this matchup is going to be how Zoe wants to wave clear into it, not necessarily wanting to actually fight Syndra at these earlier points into the game.
And Chad Jungle knows that this is a bad matchup, so is instead hovering around the mid, just to wait a couple seconds, doesn't find an opportunity, and will back up instead. So getting a little bit of a lower tempo against his opponent in Bluster, who has already taken, or is going for the counter jungle, actually.
I think he was hoping that it wasn't going to be a full clear from Chad Jungle, and in fact, it wasn't. Wolves remain up. But what had happened from Chad Jungle is he had gone, just skipped over Wolves to get the Raptors, so that way he could threaten a potential gank mid lane. If it doesn't work out, he's already on the bottom half of the map. Immediately gets Raptors, and then goes to Scuttle Crab so they can secure that with at least having a bit of priority mid lane.
But look at that spot out from the Scrying Orb. SkyTech now going in onto Young.
Trouble bubble, they got the damage, and here's the death sentence, trying to see what they can get onto SkyTech. He's barely alive. The shield will be able to be enough to keep him alive, and now they have to get a heal from Insect. Keeps them going, but with the help of Bluster nearby, Smite fight might ensue. It's going to go the way of Bluster. The flash coming in from Twice, not going to be able to connect. He's taking a little bit of damage. They got a piercing arrow, getting a lot of damage. The flash coming in from Instinct, not going to get the damage just yet. Sleepy Trouble Bubble cutting off their retreat, trying to dive back in. It's going to be only a little poke, but like you said, the Scatter the Weak keeps them all going.
Very, very close there. EGP managed to get themselves out of a sticky situation, even though they were the ones to engage. A 4v4 in the bottom of the river in order to get that Scuttle Crab, and it goes the way of Bluster. So well played. 100 Thieves next. They tried their best to get the re-engage. It just felt like they weren't in position entirely correctly. And
it's perfect for the side of EGP. This fight, even if nobody dies, they had already gotten Scuttle Crab top lane, and look how long this fight, Bluster's able to rotate all the way from the top side.
It took so long, but honestly, this all starts from SkyTech getting a nice Scryer's Bloom and also getting a nice flay onto Young, forcing him back and also making that heal a necessity for 100 Thieves Next to use. And from there, it just is chaos as 100 Thieves Next are trying to push forward, but EGP have the retreat and they have the vision advantage. So they can go through that push safely, and the Scatter the Weak to knock out 2. Huge in that scenario.
Exactly. Aspect perfect on that play to keep his team alive and giving a huge advantage to Bluster. Volibear now going to be really difficult for Chad Jungle to actually contend against. Probably having to go back to the drawing board, make a play into one of these lanes momentarily.
You can see Gweiss and SkyTech both pathing towards the mid, trying to make sure that Aspect and Young respectively have the ability to get ahead, but unfortunately, Aspect still has the advantage. He still has the singular matchup against the Zoe.
I'm still keeping my eyes on how Chad Jungle is going to perform on this Kha'Zix, because after a play like that, it's really difficult. You're usually so good at skirmishing all of these hooks. That was a nice hook out of SkyTech, just barely missing Gweiss so they can get Young, but wasn't able to fall. Going back to the point, though, normally you want to be able to get this Kha'Zix at least some bit of extra gold, so he can fight 1v1 against the opponent jungler, but because he's a little bit behind, and you have to deal with the fact Sheen has already been picked up by Bluster, he's not really going to be able to win out on those 1v1s for quite some time.
It's going to take a really long time, and quite frankly, due to the scaling of Volibear, it's going to be tough to ever get the 1v1 just because Kha'Zix needs isolation, and Volibear is happy to be isolated against an assassin. He has more than enough of a health pool to deal with it, and he has a ton of damage with the current build.
Right, and that's why I'm just expecting to see him go into one of these lanes, go back to the drawing board. It's the backup plan, and it's gone to a nice knockup on to Surdy. A little bit of damage, but he's got the tower, and he's taking him all the way to the tower with the flash away. It doesn't matter, the solo kill in from our tank player top.
And Gamsu had a quiet couple of first games, but now that he's gotten this first blood, he will be able to win out against a matchup that is very poor for Tahm Kench. With that, Surdy is going to have to rethink how he plays the rest of this game. He's going to continue poking, but he can't do the 4-1 reliably, at least for a long time.
Sam, I feel like I got foresight going on right now. I feel so big brain at the moment, because I was talking about this in the last game, how Gamsu is on to these things. It does not matter. He is shoved all the way under his turret. He still is able to find the solo kill.
And this was kind of a mistake from Surdy. To activate the melee W means he's going to automatically get targeted by the turret the second he gets spit out. So unfortunate for him, but well played by Gamsu to recognize the weakness and immediately go in for the Devour.
This top lane that you picked into Tahm Kench, you knew you had that Jace matchup, the bully potential to shove him underneath the cert over and over again, is going to be delayed. He's not going to be nearly as useful when it comes to the siege. And you can see Gamsu realizes he's just going to fight him at every stage. He's just waiting for that Devour one more time, and Gamsu will kill him yet again.
That damage is so free. He just has to use the Abyssal Dive and a couple autos. Suddenly Jace is at half health, and Surdy finds himself out of sorts, especially with Chad Jungle in the wings.
They got Bluster nearby, and that is the saving grace for Surdy. But unfortunately, they are both down levels and experience. This is allowing Chad Jungle to easily walk in. But Bluster is just out of vision. He's playing that vision game so well to make sure that they're so uncertain of how this dive could actually go. And that's why Chad Jungle actually fell back momentarily.
And Chad Jungle currently has a level lead. Well, as I say that, there's the level 6, so Volibear is now good to go. Bluster needs to pick up that red buff, though, in order to be competitive in this 2v2. Otherwise, it's just going to be free damage and free kills going over to Gamsu.
At least at the moment, that could be what they want to set up. Like you said, with red buff, going to be important. Getting that. Has the Stormbringer ult if they want to dive Gamsu, but it's Tahm Kench you're trying to dive. He's already getting pretty tanky. He's not super tanky, but he has got enough at the moment with his resistances, with his thick skin as well. Just with that alone, he becomes nearly impossible to immediately kill underneath that turret.
And look at that rush, especially with the Greaves. He's going to be near impossible for Jace specifically to do anything against. And since he's built so well for the 1v1, it requires Bluster to come in, but he's spotted out.
What a ward from Gamsu, too, to understand the potential play that was going to be set up by Surdy, by Bluster. Calls it out a mile away, knows he's so safe, and he's even playing aggressively, daring them to try to fight him.
Okay, but how does Chad Jungle respond? The Dragon makes the most sense. It isn't warded right now, and he's just going to start it up.
Yeah, there's recalls in bot lane. Both Sasuke and Skytech left. And this whole time, Bluster has canceled his recalls, hoping that maybe, just maybe, Gamsu is going to overstep and get a little too far out. But Gamsu is playing this one so cautiously. He's looking a little bit aggressive, but he was waiting until Bluster finally recalled before actually stepping up to Surdy.
Smart, as we see Chad Jungle twice looking up, but Skytree spots it again. He's just on point with all of these Scryer's Blooms. He's able to spot out the plays, and he also has the intelligence to know that there's something going on. He doesn't see laners, he doesn't see junglers, he immediately checks that.
Ghost has been popped, and there's the Devour to be able to bring back in Surdy. No flash available. Not again. The base damage solo kill. Tahm Kench, he's been unbenched.
He literally has boots. That's the only thing the Catfish needs in order to solo out Jace for the second time this game. There's not a whole lot Surdy can do, and this is going to be a rough game for EGP.
Nice flash from Young to be able to escape that one. Looked a little dicey at first. The flash has been expended by Bluster, so it's only a 1-for-1 trade in those summoners.
And with that, once again, Young stays safe, but the summoner trade is actually very important in that case because Zoe without flash surprisingly immobile, so Aspect will be able to make use of that and maybe bring the 1v1 back so that EGP has more momentum going forward into the mid-game.
That's a good change of pace to kind of look at how EGP are going to be able to play around this mid-game. The top lane is going miserably. You had a CS lead, you had the push in from Surdy, but now he is down. And Anathema's chains have been first built by Gamsu as well. This gives all the priority in the world to Chad and Young to move around as a unit.
It's going to be important, and look at that. The Rift Herald has been started. On the bottom side, though, I do want to think about how this is going to impact the plays coming out of 100 Thieves next, because there hasn't been a whole lot of movement from Instinct and Weiss. They've tried to get to the mid side, but it's just not working out, and because of that, Aspect has continually grown a lead, now about probably 6 CS when all is said and done, and we'll be able to influence the map towards the bot side, where, as we're looking at, Sasuke and Skytech have the push.
Here comes Curtain Call. They have Stormbringer as well. Aspect takes the Blast Cone to be able to get over, so, and it's a chain of corruptions. Instinct trying to be able to get away. He had to flash to be able to survive. Unleash power and heal. Hughes Scatter the Weak not going to be able to help out, but they still have to see if they can get a lot underneath the turret. All the while, Sasuke was able to get the kill underneath the turret, but they lost out on the first turret top lane.
But that's perfectly fine. You need something in order to go right for EGP because you need that kill, you need the plates, and you need, at the very least, some momentum for one of the other lanes.
Oh, and look at this. They just force off Sturdy again. They're going to get 2 turrets in this top lane off of 1 Rift Herald.
Well, now that's not worth it anymore. 100 Thieves next. Once again, just make the right play. They play to their strong side.
Sam!
Gamsu out of control.
Look at bot lane. Look at how many plates have been taken in the bot lane where they make the play. They're finally getting themselves that second plate after losing 2 towers.
At the very least, Saskio does get a kill, so he's getting a little bit of gold going his way, but as you said, Magical, it's not the same as 2 turrets.
Oh, well, here's the kill that they needed.
Nice ult.
Picked up by Bluster with the depth charge. Unfortunately, it is on to Bluster, no longer having the Ohm-Wrecker effect, so now it's a killing spree out of Gamsu. This Tahm Kench, unload the Toad, uninhibit the Ribbit.
He's been permitted, and my goodness, is he out of control. This is a pick that I am surprised we have not seen explode in the previous games, but man, oh man, when he gets a good start, he just keeps it rolling.
That he does, and nobody's looking like they're going to be able to stop him. He is insane at this moment on Tahm Kench. He's even just pushing down bot lane with the help of Demolish to take more plates for himself. God, I just want to see the gold difference between the 2 top laners, because you think the CS is favoring Surdy. He has this pressure, but right now, if they can get this kill on Chad Jungle, that'd be pretty big. Try to be able to avoid with invisibility. Nice play, but not going to be able to get the death sentence. He's got a lot of damage. The flash coming in to be able to survive. Chad Jungle, again, somehow he continues to survive, to be able to get away. Sleepy Trouble Bubble does not connect onto anybody, but it's going to scatter them. They cannot stick together. They're chased down. Chain of Corruption doesn't need to connect so they can pick up the kill.
Look at that. They prepped the Paddle Star, they prepped the Corrupting Chains, but there was nothing SkyTech could do. He had to jump around. He was trying to figure out where the next skill shot was, but that's the trick, Magical. There was no skill shot to come, but looking back at this bot lane dive, it looked good. Like, you have the right idea. You go towards your strong side, in this case, plot. Saskio has the positioning to get Twice, even with this extra flash and a nice couple of plays coming in from SkyTech, and Bluster means that is a free kill. Unfortunately, as you said, though, Magical, that means 2 turrets up top.
Right, and I think to me, that is the biggest loss here for EGP. You get gold over to Saskio, cool, good story, but then you lose 2 turrets top side, so that it's an easy play from Gamsu to be able to recall, get back into this lane, go bot lane, and then force a play onto Bluster after, even though Instinct dies, they still at least can get a kill themselves.
Not getting that second plate is also a little heartbreaking. It's what allows Gamsu more time in order to get that back and teleport off, and you saw how that went. An extra kill for Tahm Kench, who is now 3-0, has the Frostfire completed. That's 2 full items, Jesus. Magical. That's so strong at this point.
Look at mid lane, too. Neither mid lane champion has been able to complete their first mythic item. That is how far ahead Gamsu is.
He is out of control, and quite honestly, if the team isn't playing around him, they are doing something wrong, but it looks like 100 Thieves Academy know the game plan. They picked up the Dragon, and that's going to be a huge lead for this blue side in Game 3.
See, Sam, I know you've been casting too much Academy when you keep saying Academy when we have 100 Thieves Next and EGP.
Oh.
It's okay, it's
Oh,
okay.
I did it.
I've definitely been guilty of that myself. So I can understand.
Well, it's just because they're so connected, right? 100 Thieves Next, they just gave their support over, and they are looking like a dominant team even without Busio.
And, you know, EGP, same thing. Tomio getting promoted to be the sub of Evil Geniuses Academy, losing out on their star jungler. There's a similar story for both teams going into this one. And here, I want to shift it from that narrative to the items, because we're finally seeing more than just Gamsu being far ahead. Gore Drinker has been completed by Chad Jungle, again going for the pseudo bruiser build out of the Causing.
Very interesting choice. Definitely allows him more survivability against the squad, which, again, no dedicated tank. If, as we can see, Volibear is going for more of the Divine Sunderer build, and likely the Zhonya's next. So not a whole lot of adaptation out of Bluster, but still could very much work for Evil Genius' Prodigies.
And usually with the Zhonya's, even if you do get a little bit of that armor, it's going to be difficult to survive if Chad Jungle finds you soloed out. There's a giant lead that is now separating the 2 junglers. It started off with Bluster being the one to have that bit of an edge, getting the double scuttle, but since that moment, we haven't seen him be able to get much more than that bot lane play.
It's going to be difficult to get any more plays at this point, Magical. There's no way in order to push into the base. There's no way to get additional vision. And I think SkyTech, especially no longer on that recon, is struggling to find his place in this game. He rotated mid at first, but since then he has not laid an impact either. So EGP feeling completely out of balance in this third game.
But I'm not giving up on them just yet, even if it seemed like they're a little bit off balance, not having SkyTech on something that is going to engage. They've now put the onus on to Bluster to be that player, to be the one to engage. And if they all group up, it could go well.
Nice
here.
flash.
Nice flash is a way to be able to survive, even with the Lantern, to keep Aspect going. Look at Bluster, though. He's got a flank. They could potentially go for it right now. They can't. There's no TP out of Surdy, so they have to just bail. Give up SkyTech, Aspect. Leave him out to die, because they're focusing you down as best as they can. SkyTech's still surviving. He's getting run down all the while. On the other side, Aspect's able to make it to safety towards his turret. Here's the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Boom goes the Dynamite, and Chad Jungle picks up his first kill.
He didn't need to take that away, but I guess it is something for the Kazakhs. He needs to know that he's valued on this team, but Aspect getting away is a huge actual surprise for this fight. AGP, though, it's not over.
Gamsu fighting against 3 members. He's pretty beefy, but not beefy enough to be able to survive all that damage and shut down, gifted over to Saskiao.
Well done to finally shut down the Fed member of 100 Thieves next, and I think that's going to be a pretty big turning point for EGP, letting Aspect survive and then get an assist on the most Fed member.
Right, I think that, to me, the fact that the gold went over to Saskiao is what is important for EGP. This Jin getting even stronger as the game continues up, making sure that he is now set up similar to how you have the setup for Gamsu. But Gamsu is a tank. You don't necessarily want your tank to be super fed. Of course, getting him tankier early on is nice, but having a Jin that can continue to scale up is even better.
And look at that, he goes back, he even gets another item, the Bramble Vest, going to be a huge difference maker in these fights, and if he had that before, I feel like he might have even survived the 3v1.
Oh, almost. I was wondering if another Rift Herald was going to get another 2 charges for 100 Thieves next, but the fact that it was able to push so far in allows them to safely have an escapade about the bottom half of the jungle of Bluster, getting all that vision, making sure they're set up to get themselves within soul points.
Well, we're only 2,000 gold separating the two teams, so it's not necessarily a one fight either way. It comes down to how they use the vision and how 100 Thieves next sets up knowing that they have the tempo advantage.
Especially now that you got a little bit of an engage on SkyTech from Gwice with the death charge as well, but he's taking a lot of damage, trying to be able to get away, but you can see on the other side, it's going to be the knock-up onto Aspect. They've got the chase down. Scatter the Wing, not going to be able to do anything. It's a big patch, nice devour, and here comes Chad Jungle. They've got the knock-up, they've got Bluster, they've got him again with the Abyssal Voyage, and they've taken out everyone besides Surdy, who is nowhere near the fight.
Well, you know what's an easy way to set up a Dragon Magical is to kill 4 members of the enemy team. So with that, they don't even go for the Dragon, they go for the Baron instead. They know Surdy's in the plot, and he's just freshly used Teleport. It's not going to work out, and 100 Thieves next are dominating in this game.
100 Thieves next, I feel like you mean Gamsu next. He has been absolutely terrifying on this Tahm Kench. In that last fight alone, he got both knockups on both uses out of his Abyssal Voyage.
And this is going to be a really tough spot for EGP. They now have to fight against a fed Tahm Kench and Baron. So the 4-1 is available. They do have Young's Teleport as well. So 100 Thieves next, they have everything they need. And it all started with this fight, Magical Gwice getting very, very aggressive knowing that the teleport was coming in. It was all just a ploy for the Tahm Kench to come into the back. Gamsu is absurd right now. He can tank 4 members of the team and get out unscathed.
That's the thing that's wild to me, is just how much Gamsu is doing on this Tahm Kench. And, you know, normally you hate to say, ban away this tank. It's because it's a tank, right? You're saying, unless you're really that worried that it's that absurd, you don't want to ban a tank. Here, though, with how Gamsu's able to play on Tahm Kench, it feels like you can't let him keep having this.
You can't, but at the same time, that's giving up one of your very valuable bans. The Xin Zhao, I believe it was Aurelia and Ziggs as their 3 bans. You can't give any of those up. They're all far too good on 100 Thieves next. So with the EGP strategy, you can't change much. You just have to keep thinking of how to deal with this Kench, and maybe Set is the answer.
Maybe that's what you got to do, because it did do well in the laning phase against him. But here, it's still going to be rough for EGP. They're waiting out game 3. They're down 1 dragon. They were able to at least get 1 back themselves, all while we watch that replay. But I'm so concerned on how they can actually play around these upcoming skirmishes and fights, especially when they don't really have a reliable front line. We've mentioned before, and we'll mention again, it is not exactly the safest build on Volibear that they have for Bluster. And you look at the damage on Aspect, nearly taken down by minions.
Very, very close, but a heal clutch coming in from Saskio in order to keep him alive. This is still very worrying for the side of EGP. They don't have the ability to deal with Siege, as you were just mentioning, Magical, and that's all 100 Thieves next has to do. They don't need to overthink this. Just push the turrets that are available and send Gamsu on his way.
Well, Sam, you even said it too, that they both have Siege options, but the problem when you are both Siege teams is whichever one has the advantage, whichever one has the lead, is going to be the one that wins out and can constantly harass you, nearly getting the piercing arrow out of instinct. But this forces off Saskio all the way back into his fountain, and this is going to open up the base of EGP.
And smartly enough, EGP are backing off. They do need to give this inhibitor up in order to have any chance, but the shots are coming in.
But it's not really going to do enough to dissuade them from taking their first inhibitor. It's the fight back afterwards that they could try to look for. With the low health bar members on the side of 100 Thieves Next, they just can't do it. They're so afraid of playing into 100 Thieves Next.
The only way they could have made that play work is if they had 2 teleports, but Surdy teleporting in for the Dragon a few minutes ago means they cannot make that easy play. And Bluster, he just doesn't have the stats to stand up to most of this team. 100 Thieves Next have been playing around beautifully, and they know when to get their disengages. They know when to get the push, and they get out immediately. Very well played so far in this 24-minute game.
And it's not looking like it's going to get any easier for EGP. They don't really have too many answers at the moment. Still waiting to see if they can at least build up a decent defense against 100 Thieves Next. All the while, we're getting more of these items. We're getting that lethality in from Chad Jungle. We've got a Youmuu's on top of that Gore Drinker with a serrated Dirk as well to be able to take down these members that are fairly squishy on the side of EGP. You can even see it right here, how much damage they're able to do to Bluster the moment he walks up.
I'll be honest, the difference I'm most surprised about right now is Chad Jungle versus Bluster. Bluster has not had a great game to start, but I didn't realize it was almost a 3,000 gold difference between the two. And now that Gamsu has been toned down a lot and hasn't been able to get the dominance on, he is dropped a little bit in terms of gold advantage, but it's still a lot.
Yeah, but Sam, that's also great. You're starting to pour gold elsewhere. You're starting to allocate it into the right members. You're getting it off of your tank and into your carries.
That's exactly what should be done, and speaking of what should be done, 100 Thieves Next are pushing onto 2 waves, and once again, EGP just don't have an answer for this. They're trying to push, but that's a tank. You don't send all your members for a single tank.
And even if they do send him, he's level 15 now. They had Chad Jungle right there waiting to jump into the members of EGP. You're not going to be able to kill this Tom Clench quickly enough for it to amount to anything.
And with that, that's another inhibitor down. EGP are struggling to find a way back in. The only possibility is to start a fight right now before the 3 inhibitors are down.
They're trying to defend their final inhibitor turret, getting a little bit of damage and clearing off the waves, but Gamsu is still there, hanging out with his buddy, his insect homie, making sure that they can get this poke coming in from both Instinct and Young.
They're going to have to back out for now. The health bars are just getting 2 poked down. EGP, they've met their match. 2 poke comps, as you said, Magical. It's all about whoever gets the first advantage, and 100 Thieves Next have shown they can get that advantage.
This is looking so brilliant out of the side of 100 Thieves Next, getting that early lead topside, and now forcing around the final exposed inhibitor in mid lane. They constantly are harassing them with this siege. There's so little EGP can do.
And Skytech in the back, he can't start up the fights like he wants to. The teleports are available for EGP if they want to make this fight. It has to be very soon because the objectives are spawning in Baron in 20 seconds, and the 3rd Dragon 400 Thieves Next is available if they should want to take it.
But the thing is, Sam, they want to have these fights at all costs. How can they when on the way to each one of these fights, members are getting chunked out below 50% from just 1 or 2 spells out of 100 Thieves Next?
That's what I'm saying. You got to get the teleports in, Magical. The vision hasn't been able to get set up. They need to happen. I don't know how. They just need to happen.
Sam, that's not helpful here.
Numbers, man.
That's just looking brutal. That's the best we can say here for EGP. This is a very clean game out of 100 Thieves Next. It might have been a bit rough at the early stages, but once they kept getting these solo kills out of Gamsu over and over again in the top lane, it has been easy road and easy street for 100 Thieves next.
And they can't even poke into this Baron. They know it's being done, but EGP, they're getting poked down once again. Skytech forced to back off, and 100 Thieves next have full control of this area.
Gamsu's joining him. They pop Battle Song. Sleepy Trouble Bubble lands onto Saskia with the tip charge as well. They've already burned down Bluster. The fight is beautiful out of 100 Thieves next. They got nothing to worry about. Another knockup with the Abyssal Voyage to make sure he's locked down, and he is blown up by a rampaging Instinct.
And that's the 3 kills 100 Thieves next needed. There are only 2 left alive for EGP, the ones with teleports, ironically. And they are going to not be enough to save this game.
Not at all. They don't need the Baron because they have the game locked in the bag. This was a perfect game played by 100 Thieves next. The final fight to pad the KDAs, all while they get a nice devour from Gamsu to make sure they can keep this game rolling. They can keep this series rolling as well to go up 2-1, even though it's a nice snipe coming in from Surdy. It's too little too late, and game 3 has been picked up by 100 Thieves next.
You thought EGP had a chance that entire time, but then Gamsu gets a kill, and you think, wow, that was a really good solo kill. There's probably not much that's going to come of it, but then he gets another one. And then he gets another kill on top of that. Gamsu, a monster in that early game that allowed the team to just snowball a lead into oblivion.
Completely negating the early game that Bluster had found as well. They had gotten that double scuttle early on for Volibear. It looked like they had contained the insect, but it just wasn't enough to actually stop the real threat, which was the Tahm Kench.
It was just too much to handle, and when a Tahm Kench is the threat, you have to think about what are your options against that, because you usually have an AD that can deal a lot, but Jhin, he's not going to be able to explode a Tahm Kench for a long time, if at all. And with Jace completely shut out of the picture, you don't have a top laner, so you're basically 2 members shy of being able to kill the Tahm Kench. It took a concerted effort of 3 members of EGP in order to make that work.
And now 100 Thieves next are 1 game away from guaranteeing themselves into the Proving Grounds. We're going to give it back over to our desk with Rafa, our host. Rafa, take us away.
Thanks again, Magical and Cage. 100 Thieves next, as they called it. They are on the brink of closing out this series. Match point is in their favor, as I'm joined once again by Jolly and Rebel Fox on the desk. And when we look back at this draft from both teams, you see that Evil Genius's Prodigies, they really had one condition in mind. It's that they needed to get off the ground early before this Poke and Siege composition from 100 Thieves next came online, Jolly.
Which is hard to do considering, as was just said by Cage, there's such minimal damage coming from that Jhin early on. Not only that, but the amount of initiation, which is something I requested. You know, I need some frontline initiation, isn't quite there. It's not enough for the Volibear and to try to get a death sentence in from Skytech here on the bottom side. And so that early pressure that they really needed was immediately staunched. As soon as this Jace was taken out of the picture, there wasn't much that could be done about it.
And not only that, also, like, it's the Jace snowballing is the win con, but also Tahm Kench, if he's perfectly fine in a game, can tilt so much of the damage. Syndra isn't usually able to, like, full carry unless you're very far ahead. Jhin doesn't do damage at all. Champion, seriously though, like, it's not meant to carry, especially not through a frontline tank like the likes of the Tahm Kench. And so Jace is your main option, not only to get yourselves ahead, but to shut down the enemy's ability to actually take away your damage. And just none of that happened. They did not work towards that in the slightest.
And I think this comes down to a little bit. I don't want to say it's a champ pool issue, because we have seen Saskia perform extremely well on Jhin in the past, and for someone coming into the team as, you know, not the starting option, you know, probably the option for the draft. I mean, we don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes, but if we had to take a guess, say, Saskia, what do you feel comfortable with here? Give me Jhin, I'll be fine. And, you know, Jhin in lane can you know, in the past has done decently well in terms of the laning phase, but it needs to get off the ground, because especially if you're going for a high execution build in terms of Gale Force and Collector, you're relying on ensuring that the Tahm Kench doesn't get to the point where he just doesn't care about your damage anymore, because it is much more focused on squishies. And when we look at how Gamsu played this game, he has to be given a lot of props, because his success in lane, not only being able to deal with jungle pressure from Bluster, but also the fact that he was able to coordinate with the rest of the map from 100 Thieves next to get objectives was absolutely immaculate here, Rebel.
it's something else when you get to see in this replay at least a small amount of the focus that would have come out in the early game against the likes of the Tahm Kench trying to get this Jace ahead, thwarted by a ward. Just sits there and thwarted by a ward. It's so like this is bad enough on its own to be like, okay, you're gonna waste some time, then you're gonna be sitting.
Watch the W.
Yeah, watch the W, and then also the communication on the mini map. This entire time they say, okay, we know where this Volibear is. Go strike on bottom side. They get not only the dragon but set up for an additional play, and then Gamsu's able to keep him here. W's in place to cancel the back that had come out from the Volibear. Like so much time is burnt off of him. Not only setting up the dragon, this gets level 7 and the experience advantage for the likes of the Kazakhs. Sets up an additional play. It's so much tempo pulled away from this Volibear to be able to do something with just off the back of a Tahm Kench sitting there. He's just sitting there.
He is, and there was a lot of pressure as well that was offered in response by Instinct. So you had Varus being able to push up the lane while that dragon was being taken. So even if something happened down there, you have the rotations available from the jungler to go and assist.
And look at that. He even does the BMW because he's saying, hey, that was on purpose, guys. You know, we knew you were there. I don't know if EGP caught on to the little bamboozle that 100 Thieves Next did, but, you know, giving a little bit of #LiveEvil treatment back over to the side of EGP. And once the Tahm Kench gets ahead in this composition in the draft, then it is just so damn hard for anyone on the side of Evil Geniuses to actually deal with the Tahm Kench. And then when you get to the point where 100 Thieves Next are full in effect of executing their composition during the siege, there's nothing that EGP can do, because like you said, Jolly, who is going to engage? Volibear can't walk up because he's going for Divine Sunder, so he's not as tanky as you would want him to be, because he's going a little bit for more burst damage. But if he tries to jump in with Stormbreaker, he doesn't really have that much follow-up either.
We don't, and you can see we've got another replay set up here. It's only 22.5 minutes into the game, and there's not a massive gold lead, but the amount of pressure that was able to come through, honestly, from all of the successful pushes that 100 Thieves X had, we can see the Baron play, and this is, you know, 2 minutes after the Baron spawned here, complete control held by 100 Thieves, and even without being able to hit this piercing arrow right here to get the kill, they're able to pressure this forward. This is the start of a pretty long fight, by the way. They're able to pressure this one forward, and here even Saskio takes it, or not Saskio, you got Instinct takes a couple of tower shots. They're totally fine with that, and they're still able to continue this fight, take out the inhibitor pre-25 minutes, and that is finally the opportunity that you're able to see that ultimate, the curtain call, do some damage to the tanky members, but it's not until that 5th shot, and there's so many bodies that are in front of the squishy backline that it really isn't going to have an impact.
You can give a ton of props as much as possible to Gamsu because he clearly is the front line. He's a bunch of the engage. He's a lot of the threat that comes through. You have to give it over to the rest of the team, especially Instinct and even bigger, perhaps Young. Young 2 times now on this Zoe has gone absolutely bonkers inside of these games, finding paddle stars, finding ease, being just an absolute thorn in the side of EGP. I can't speak enough in this game or in the previous Zoe game just how well that this player has played over last week. So you can give him as much setup as possible. If you're not hitting those skill shots, it's not going to be as much pressure. But when you're laying on damage the way that this Zoe has been, the way that Young has been this series, especially into the likes of Aspect, that level of talent, gotta give him tons of props.
Yeah, especially when Aspect turned on during the quarterfinal matchup against TSM Amateur. He was a huge reason in why they were able to come back and win that Game 3. Otherwise, we could have been looking at a TSM Amateur match right here against 100 Thieves Next. But not only Young mid, we talked about his stride coming into full form during the EGL Summer Showdown in comparison to the rest of his 2021 split, both earlier in the summer as well as back in spring, because we have to remind ourselves, as 100 Thieves Next, they are on the brink of closing out the series 2-1 right now. 100 Thieves Next weren't even in contention for Tier 1 events, let alone Proving Grounds, back in spring when they had Goo and Cozy on that roster. They made the necessary adjustments. They still didn't get that far in Challengers Uprising. They had a decent showing over in Risen, but then here they're finally in the series. They are on the brink of being able to claim the last Proving Grounds qualification spot, and going into Game 4, we're going to have to see what Evil Geniuses Prodigies are going to do, because they tried taking away the Thresh, it didn't work, and now we're not sure which side is going to be. But ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, Magical and Cage will be there taking you for potentially our last game of the series, or if EGP can bring us to a Game 5.
Hello, hello, welcome back everyone to the EGL Summer Showdown. Third place matchup, 100 Thieves are one game away from securing their spot to the Proving Grounds, but EGP, they need to fight back now more than ever. It's desperate because we are at Game 4, 2-1 for 100 Thieves next.
It's so close, but at the very least there has been a shift, Magical. EGP have chosen blue side for side selection, and that might change things up a bit because they no longer have to ban the same things, and maybe they can get rid of that pesky Tom Kench.
It's also going to be interesting to see how 100 Thieves next adapt to being on the blue side, since they had been opting for that red side in the past games. Even EGP opting, 100 Thieves were opting for blue side, EGP were opting for red side, now swapping it up. We saw what happened when EGP had that swapped up in their series against AoE. They looked a little bit less comfortable on blue side, but it's going to be interesting to see because now they don't have to ban certain things like Xin Zhao or like Aurelia.
Yeah, but at the same time, they are banning away the Ziggs all the same, and they probably have to ban away Aurelia as well, just because Young is such a confident player on that character that it can't go through, and it will counter pretty much everything Aspect wants to play.
But instead, they go for Tom Kench as their ban. I think that they want to try to force 100 Thieves next as much as possible to think they have to ban that Aurelia if at all costs, because there's Little Blanc that usually has been banned when 100 Thieves next have been on blue side. Gwen, Viego as well are the other options that they have gone for, but 100 Thieves next are not falling for the bait just yet. They banned that LeBlanc away from Aspect.
Okay, so the final ban coming through, it could be the no, it can't be the Xin Zhao, it could be the Aurelia, and it is going to be. So that does leave the Thresh available, as well as the Varus that has been taken away by 100 Thieves next every game thus far. So I imagine that's a possibility for Saskio. He does love to play that, and it is a powerful pick generally, but it's banned away instead. So they're going to have to rethink this.
That means Gwen and Viego both open, and I'd expect to see that Viego locked in immediately for Bluster into that top lane, into that jungle, because he has been looking so hot on that champion. We think back to even game 1 of this series. You look back to the last series yesterday in semifinals, games 1 and 2, how he was able to play in those mid to late game team fights.
He does have a lot of power as the game goes on, but he needs to be paired with a lot of early game and a lot of initiation from other players. So whether that's for Skytex for Khan or whether he goes Thresh, there does need to be a secondary source, and I'd love to see it from either Surdy or Skytech, whether that's Set or, who am I talking about, Rakan?
Well, here is going to be interesting. So you talked about Set, and Set, I mentioned before, can play support when paired up with Kalista. And they've locked in that 4 instinct into the bot lane, and I want to see how they build around that bot lane. It's a nice change of pace. We have kind of seen Kalista forgotten about by many of these teams here in EGL, but for EGP, they're not even focusing onto the bot lane. Instead, they're grabbing that Zoe, grabbing the Nautilus, a little bot lane focus, but not getting the ADC like I would expect them to here.
That's really interesting that Zoe was picked up for Aspect, because usually the pick would go in reverse. You see the Syndra, you don't pick the Zoe because you know you're going to get countered in lane. But in this case, EGP feel confident that they can get the picks they need as the game progresses and not worry so much about the late game because they know they're playing for Bluster's Viego.
And the thing is, it's kind of that ebb and flow when it comes to Zoe lanes. Well, you're not really going to be able to beat Syndra in the 1v1 fight. You're more about teaming up with your jungler, and having Bluster onto Viego to try to set him up might be what EGB are trying to do in this composition, especially when we look at the second part of bans to take away the power of the jungler on the other side.
And I do like this Leona lock-in. It's not quite the Set, but in many ways much stronger when it comes to Gweiss. I feel like his initiation is not reliant on Kalista anymore. He can do it himself with the Solar Flare or the Lance, depending on how he chooses to use it. And he still has the ability to roam, which is going to be necessary to get Young rolling on the Syndra.
Jace is going to be the final ban. 2 top lane bans from 100 Thieves next towards Surdy. To me, it indicates that they are going to hold off on to Gom. Actually, no. To me, that indicates that Chad Jungle is going to be the one they try to counterpick. Because I feel like Gomsu is just going to go back onto the tank, not really caring too much about the matchup, only taking away the things that they're truly worried about fighting against.
And this is the thing, Magical. It's not necessarily a Viego jungle if they need it to be. If Surdy wants to take that, he could. It's not likely. But it looks like with the Volibear lock-in, they're going to be reasonably confident playing the Viego there, and that's a crazy hub for Magical.
Are they going to lock in Draven back to the wall, and they lock in this aggressive bot lane, the Bully, to try to take down Kalista early?
Okay, so that's one way to counter it. You use the late game of Viego and the early game of Draven combined with what could be an Ornn to really bolster Draven as the game goes on. So scaling options kind of forced in there for EGP, a lot of team fight as well. So this draft looking very different than the previous 3 games.
Very different. Surdy not on something that is trying to carry in the top side or trying to win out the lane, instead playing for the mid to late game team fights. And this is that Gwen that we had mentioned all the way back at the beginning, that had been banned every single time by 100 Thieves Next themselves. They get to lock that in. Of course, I'm going to be curious of where exactly this goes. If it's going to be Chad playing it or Gamsu. It is Gamsu playing it, because we actually have been seeing that Gwen, with the recent nerfs, has slowly been shifting more into the jungle. But
the problem is the Volibear Ornn matchup not as strong as the Gwen matchup is going to be into Ornn specifically. Even with the nerf, it still feels like you're going to have a better time if you're Gamsu, trying to play the early game out and win through fighting as opposed to playing 2 tanks butting against each other and inevitably losing because Ornn is the better scaling tank.
The thing that's so crazy to me is it's the change of who's playing what in that top lane. Surdy, normally the carry top laner, the Bully, now on to the tank, while Gamsu, normally the tank player, trying to be able to, even if he's trying to fight it in those matchups, he's usually trying to play a bit more passively. Here, he's allowed to play aggressively, to try to look for those solo kills, and if they work out for 100 Thieves Next, we saw what happened in Game 3 when you got a Tom Catch ahead. Imagine a Gwen.
I mean, what I'm really curious about is whether or not this bot lane is going to pop off, because EGP are putting all their eggs in one basket, and that basket's name is Draven. So let's see whether or not he can actually get the advantage on Instinct, because thus far, the only time we've seen Sasuke actually get an advantage is when they pile on the players from EGP onto 100 Thieves Next, and Instinct is left out to dry.
This might be the game to try it once more. Try it a second time around for EGP. You get a Draven, you have to play around him, otherwise it's just not worth picking.
It really does need to pop off early, and I think we're going to see that. It is enabled if they can get Surdy in a good position early on, but otherwise it's going to be a really rough time because Aspect is going to be behind in lane, and Sasuke, he needs to find his own avenues without help at the beginning of the game.
And here we are, loading up onto the Rift for our 4th time in this best of 5 third place matchup. 100 Thieves Next need to lock in this game to secure their spot at the Proving Grounds, but EGP, Evil Geniuses Prodigies, they've locked in Draven, they've locked in Viego again for Bluster, and want to force us into a Game 5.
And it could very well happen. I mean, the difference in this draft is going to be unbelievably impactful in how EGP decides to approach this game. They've also taken blue side, and maybe just that little change in scenery makes the grass feel a little greener.
At least you're hoping so if you're an Evil Geniuses fan, if you're hashtag live evil. But if you're not, if you're on the 100 Thieves side, what is it, the hashtag the heist? You're hoping,
live 100.
You're hoping that it's going to be really easy for 100 Thieves to get this 3-1 victory and secure that spot into the Proving Grounds and make sure you avoid at all costs the unified qualifiers.
It's going to be a close matchup, but, you know, the one I'm fearing the most for EGP is this mid lane. You know Aspect is going to be behind, and Young, if he gets even a single solo kill, you feel like he's going to take over the game as this Syndra. They recently buffed Syndra on 11-15. Going to be an incredibly powerful force if he can get taken off.
But you look all the way back into, what was that? It was Game 2 when Young had Syndra last, and how great he was in the team fights. The lane pace was a struggle, but it was all about how he played in the team fights. But now, an early fight, Sasuke are taking a lot of damage, forced to cleanse to try to survive, and first blood for 100 Thieves Next!
Oh, that's the one thing about Kalista's, even though Draven has the early game advantage, it's not enough, and the return kill comes through for SkyTech, but at what cost? That's a Draven who died at level 1.
Draven dying level 1, but he retained Flash at the very least. Both summoners were used by Instinct. An Ignite was used by Gweiss. I gotta think that if I'm looking at how this played, yes, you're right. This is very unfortunate for the side of Sasuke, but at least he's gonna get to lane first.
But one thing you have to worry about with Kalista in the level 1 is the Rend combined with the Leona passive is going to be a ton of damage onto Draven. And so while Draven has an advantage, quote-unquote, early, it's not the same as winning out the level 1 fight, which Instinct does flawlessly in the follow-up chase. I mean, Skytech's at full health. Not a whole lot you can do about that. It's still a major victory for 100 Thieves Next.
Exactly. It doesn't matter because it was Nautilus who got the kill over you, not Draven. No cash in just yet. An early bit of gold picked up by Instinct so he can get back to lane with 2 longswords now.
And Draven stuck with the single Doran's Blade, so not looking great for the bot lane of EGP. The lane that needed to take off this game in order to make the pick work. It needs backup from the jungle, and whether or not that can happen, all dependent on Bluster.
Unfortunately for Bluster now, Chad Jungle realizing that their lane, bot lane especially, getting this priority, and mid lane as well, we knew that the Zoe Syndra matchup was going to be difficult, allows them to pretty much take control. He bought up that real estate in this bottom half of the map. Even if he wasn't able to take away the red buff of Bluster, he's able to force him out of his own jungle, and now gets his pick onto Skytech. So much damage coming in, and another kill for Instinct!
Oh, Instinct is popping off in the first 3.5 minutes of this game, Magical. I didn't think I'd be saying that considering this draft, but his Kalista, pretty darn good when the team sets him up.
Right now, too, even if he is down a bit of CS, it does not damn matter. You've got those 2 early kills for Instinct. Sasuke cannot go anywhere near these minions if he actually wants to be able to start stacking up those adoration stacks. It's taking so much just concentration out of Sasuke to make sure he's not getting jumped on immediately by Twice.
And at the very least, Skytech will be back, and there is a small CS advantage, but what little comfort that brings when you're against a 2-1 Kalista who already has the Noon Quiver completed.
The only reason he even has that lead is purely because Skytech was able to get that kill onto Instinct earlier on. It meant that Sasuke was going to get to lane first, gives him a lot more time with the minions. Here, a good attempt from Skytech to try to force out Twice, but it's only getting a little bit of damage. You can see how tanky already Twice is, and he's not got anything.
Absolutely nothing, and that's what you have to fear is how much influence a support can have at this point in the game. Aspect going hard.
Yeah, he's going really hard. Had a barrier up. Paddlestar is going to connect, getting a lot of damage onto Young to force him back underneath the turret. But it's still a difficult matchup there. And now we trade our attention to this top side. It's Gamsu on the other side of this matchup, having the rough end of the tank versus carry matchup.
And I like this because Surdy building that Bramble Best first means Gamsu does not have the ability to burst him down with pure autos. Yes, Gwen is mostly AP.
Double bubble connected, and here's Skytech Bluster combination to get the kill over to Aspect.
Ooh, Bluster getting in early. I like this rotation from Skytech, able to get this early mid-game going, and Aspect, who was in a previously struggling lane, was able to pick up a very nice kill for the team.
Giving a bit of an allowance over to the side of Aspect 2. Not struggling as much as you'd expect. He was struggling earlier on, but a good trade back meant that he was able to at least keep Young in a better position so the rest of his team can punish him if he stepped out of line. And that gold is also going to help this Zoe into a difficult matchup such as Syndra.
Oh, so much. And I feel like the back is going to be pretty big for this. Looks like that will be Merc Treads picked up, fully finished. And that is what you absolutely need to beat Young because you no longer are susceptible to the full burst combo.
The only problem is it does delay your ability to shove back the waves against Young. So now that Young has hit level 6, leaving the lane probably soon as possible to be able to help out around this dragon. Since they have priority in bot lane, they've got a little bit of priority now mid lane. The Infernal Dragon is easily picked up by 100 Thieves.
100 Thieves next will be able to pick up the first dragon of the game. It looks like it will be an Infernal, so a little bit of extra damage definitely helps. But at the same time, it's not something EGP is terribly worried about. They still have the ability to fight dragons in the mid game, and I feel like they're trying to wait for that scaling up at this point, considering Sasuke has had such a terrible start.
That's kind of what they have to, because look at this every single time they can. They're trying to fight against Skytech, against Sasuke, but Sasuke now, this time around, he hadn't been focused. It's going to be the cleanse. No rend in time. It will be the stack completed. Even if he died, he was able to cash in. Skytech trying to be able to get away. The trouble bubble going to be able to get on this. Oh, Chad Jungle not able to get that last bit of an attack, so they turn it around.
Woohoo! EGP playing this the right way. Sasuke having the confidence to go forward, knowing he had a body full of arrows. The Ren just barely not enough to kill him off. Instinct, so close, but does give the stacks over to Draven, who now has money to go.
That's what EGP needed. Even if he died at first blood, and even if he died after the play, he got the cash in. He is now going to be far more even into this matchup against Instinct.
And this lane swap coming out, Sasuke going for the mid lane to pick up these extra waves. EGP knows that he needs to have the gold, and so they're giving him all the CS that he needs.
Right now, Surdy and Gamsu fighting it out. Not going to be able to dodge away. It's going to be the knock-up. Needle work, not enough!
Nice play.
Solo kill this time from Surdy.
Surdy able to make that work, dodging out from the needles just well enough, and that passive doing so much damage against Gamsu. He doesn't have the items yet. He doesn't have the Omnivamp to fight Ornn, so he absolutely lost out on that fight.
And I said it before, I'll say it again, it's a turn of fate in the top lane, but we got to take a look first at this bot lane play. I feel like you look at 100 Thieves, they put way too much attention to try to kill Skytech instead of Sasuke.
And Sasuke, look at him just moving forward. The Ren does go off, but
So
it's not
close.
enough damage. Sasuke's more than happy to die because, as you mentioned, the cash-in, so important. But again, Skytech keeps getting away with this. How does he do it? Great backup from the team.
Perfect Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Purely right at the end. He had that little bit of the W to get that final heal, the final damage onto Skytech, but like you said, he keeps getting away with it. And for the side of EGP, this has gone perfectly. It might have been a rough start out of the gates, but they've got cash into Draven's pockets. They've got 2 kills onto Aspect, and this is looking like they can start playing for this mid-game a lot sooner.
They definitely have more options available to them, but the question is, will the catch-out work against Sasuke?
Oh, well, this is looking pretty good at the moment. They're getting a lot of damage, and now they are focusing Sasuke. He's got the Whirling Death, though, to be able to trade it back, but unfortunately not going to be able to get a big cash in. Skytech, this time around, you're not escaping. This time, Chad Jungle is making sure that you will die. They want to gift a free kill to Young. They say, happy birthday, my dude. There you go.
Still took him a little while, but EGP do make at least 1 kill back. 100 Thieves next, though, faster on the rotation. You saw Young already moving at the start of that play, and a very nice catch out in the dark bush.
Here, Aspect. Oh, barely not able to steal away the Scuttle Crab there, but going back into that play and what we just saw with this replay, the thing is, it's a nice attempt by the side of 100 Thieves next, but they needed to wait for Chad Jungle.
They really did, and even though there's no quote-unquote cash-in from Sasuke, he didn't have many minions to start out with, and the Adoration stacks would have been relatively low anyway. So regardless, he still gets a little bit of extra gold for that kill, and Skytech trying his best with the fancy feet, not able to get it. Young just has the right rotation, and with Chad Jungle in tow, it was the perfect setup for 100 Thieves next.
And I think the big thing for me is the fact that Young was able to get the kill. And now they can play around bot lane again. Look at how much focus both teams are placing. Sasuke untouched, though, getting all this damage. Now they're trying to see if they can jump onto the Chad Jungle. They've already got the kill on the Skytech, but the fact that Bluster was on the other side, they don't want to fully commit.
Bluster showing up was definitely the right call. Unfortunately, still a sacrifice made, and 100 Thieves next continuing to pummel the bot lane. Always focusing on Skytech at first, knowing that he doesn't have that flash available.
Wait, Aspect
Hold up.
solo killed Young. Hold up.
I think we're going to need a replay on that, but while that's getting set up, in the bot lane, it's just so much focus for Chad Jungle and Gweiss, always finding Skytech and always getting that kill. Sasuke, he doesn't have the damage yet to solo out anyone.
And with Aspect getting a solo kill onto Young in mid lane, we got to take first a look at this play in the bottom half of the map.
And we see how it starts out. Just 3 members on Skytech. Bluster can't get into the fight. Sasuke also can't hit a single target. Some nice aggro jungling by Chad Jungle in order to make that work. But here's the solo kill. Looks like a simple Zoe combo. Landing the Sleepy Trouble Bubble after the Paddle Star means a second Paddle Star is coming. And the Ignite, more than enough to take it out.
Yep, that was a nice play by Aspect, just understanding the power of that Zoe. 3-0 at the moment, and here's the TP in from Aspect around Dragon, looking to see if they can stack it up early. 100 Thieves, though, they gotta be careful. Gweiss is on the other side of the wall. They got a lot of damage onto Chad Jungle. They've got the kill and they're trying to get the cash in on Saskio. Nice knock-up, not going to be able to hit anybody, but it's a double kill from Bluster. All the while, they're chasing down Gomsu. He's got the needlework to turn it around, but they've got 2 and 3 kills for Gomsu, but he's finally dead. The fight continues with Bluster diving into the backline, getting so much damage onto twice. Young trying to be able to run away, but they've got a quadra kill out of Bluster.
3, a triple, and a quadra kill in the same play, Magical? When do you ever see that happen? Gomsu running out of control, but only leading way for Bluster to come in and save the day.
So much attention, even myself focused onto Saskio, and that meant Bluster had a field day in that fight, completely untouched, constantly diving and reset. This fight was so long that Chad Jungle, who died at the beginning, was able to respawn and now fight around the dragon.
And it looks like he's going to get the smite as well.
He's got the smite, trying to be able to get away. The flash comes in from Bluster. The other side, Dirty was able to get a solo kill, this time onto Young, and they can still engage if they want to. They don't have the cooldowns on those ults, but they will take the fact that they were able to get the kill onto Young, even if it sacrificed the dragon.
EGP are really coming back into this after 100 Thieves Next have had their focus and even got a few early plays to them. But let's take a look at how this all started. A teleport from Aspect, actually, and Surdy on the other side teleporting means there's a perfect sandwich made up of nothing but 100 Thieves Next meat, and that is what you had for dinner if you're Bluster. Incredible plays coming out, and on the backside, you keep thinking Gomsu. He's doing so well, but the health bars are so low, it doesn't matter. Quadra kill comes out anyway.
As well, Bluster that entire time, his resets he was able to get from the Stolen Souls, as well as just not getting any focus from anybody. Nobody did any damage because they wanted to kill Saskio, thinking Draven, take him out, and they completely forgot about the Ruined King himself.
And some really nice poke, additionally, from Aspect, able to get the health bars low enough to make that work. So Bluster picking up what they're putting down, and 100 Thieves Next, they are not happy with that fight.
Not at all. They now find themselves at a 2,000 gold deficit despite having 2 dragon lead over EGP. And EGP, they're still working on a lot of those items. You can see more mythics on the side of 100 Thieves Next, but there's the crucial items that have been picked up for EGP. The Divine Sunderer, as well as an Essence Reaver for Saskio.
The Essence Reaver really going to make a huge difference. Now he's going to be able to move forward a lot more, and the crit chance can't be understated in the slightest. Now he's going to be able to actually burst down Instinct or Young if he's able to get onto him.
The thing is, he's also susceptible to getting bursted out himself. There's so much lockdown potential that at this point, Saskio, it almost feels like he's the bait to allow Bluster to go absolutely crazy on the back line.
And with that, it looks like 100 Thieves Next trying to push in against this Rift Herald play, and Bluster is going to say no to that, but it's 4 members versus 3 for now, and the top laners are kind of intermingled.
Aggro, you got to be careful. It's starting to lose patience. Probably going to reset any second. There it is. The reset coming in, and the Scuttle Crab has been secured by 100 Thieves to make it a bit easier for this fight.
It looks like it's going to be started again, though. Evil Genius's Prodigies not letting go of this objective.
No, it's Instinct instead trying to make the call to get the turret itself in mid lane. While this entire dance has been going on, Chad Jungle could go for Stormbreaker Smite. Oh, he doesn't even try to go for it. Instead, peeling back so they could try to take the turret itself.
Just trying to make sure this secondary fight that could occur goes their way. Chad Jungle playing the patient game. He knows he can win the Smite fight, but at the same time, it's not worth giving over a kill at this point in the game. You can't let Bluster get any farther ahead than he already is.
Because you already see that Bluster has the Mythic, while Chad Jungle does not. Now it'd be risky to dive in without your team to back you up, since this is a fairly squishy Volibear as opposed to what we were used to way back in the past, where it was always that tank Volibear that we'd see.
And with that mid-turret taken, that's going to be an even turret trade, and 100 Thieves Next are losing out on this. EGP, they get not only the mid-turret, but they also got the Rift Herald from before.
Hollow Ground has already been used by Gonsu. And here's Bluster, Call of the Forge God. Gets a knock with the depth charge and the Call of the Forge God. And it's another kill and another shutdown for Bluster.
Ooh, the scissors are not doing too well tonight, but Young manages to cut down the bot turret as well. So at the very least, it's a turret trade, but it's not the one that 100 Thieves Next wanted.
Not at all. Not at all, because that is more gold piled into Bluster, and we keep talking about Bluster on Viego, how powerful this player is when gifted this insanely powerful champion.
And Surdy has completed his Anathema's chain, so he's going to be even tankier in the next fight. Going to be very difficult to take out this team if Evil Genius's Prodigies positioned correctly.
As well, making it far more difficult for someone like Gamsu, if that's going to be the nemesis, to be able to survive the CC that he can provide for the team. That Omnivamp that you get from Riftmaker were pretty much null and void when you have reduced tenacity.
Very, very true. But looking at the total items, 100 Thieves next, as you said, they do have more of the mythic items, and that's going to make a huge difference, especially Instinct with the Immortal Shield Bow and now completed a Hearthbound Axe. Going to be important to get away from things as well as deal with the upfront burst coming in from Saskia and Aspect.
Going to be more important, though, as the second items get completed, because as long as EGB continue to stall out buying some of those mythics for their crucial members, you can see they've got a lot of grievous wounds that they picked up to try to stop some of the healing, but it's delaying them getting to those power spikes.
And here it is, the third dragon spawning in Magical. It looks like that both teams are ready to fight, but the vision advantage going over to 100 Thieves next.
Aspect trying to get a little bit of poke into the backline. Not going to get that much just yet. Still on the Luden's Tempest. It's a vision fight, and the flash coming in from Gwyce with Chad Jungle chasing down Aspect. It's a nice knockup with the depth charge, but here comes the Stormbringer, and he's burst down by Saskia. No jungler whirling death, getting a hell of a lot of damage. All the while, Gamsu's in the middle of everybody, and he's bounced around, and he's killed for the double time out of Saskia, continuing to chase. It's a triple kill out of Draven.
I'm sorry, is that the Draven from the cinematic? He's coming out hard and fast, and he's getting these kills. A triple in the mid-game. This is the point where EGP really wants to push their advantage.
And with that, it was already bad enough that they had to deal with a 5-0 Viego. Now it is a 5-kill Draven that EGP have on their team. They are set up perfectly for this mid-game to absolutely annihilate 100 Thieves.
And even though he doesn't have the mythic, he's still putting in so much work against 100 Thieves next. This Saskia Draven, too much to handle this pick. We questioned it at first, but in this team fight, we can see exactly what it's doing. Staying in the back, letting the meatballs get in the front, and letting Surdy do everything he needs to do with the triple knockdown.
And here, you can just see how squishy Chad Jungle is when he jumps in. He dies pretty much immediately when he lands, and then after that, it is a cleanup from Evil Geniuses.
EGP have so many beef balls on their side that they can just CC down the troublemakers. In this case, Gamsu couldn't do a single thing in that fight because he was chained to the wall, and Draven could just wait out the W until he could actually auto-attack again.
That's what I was talking about with having Riftbreaker, but we gotta hold on right now because there's a lot used onto Bluster. They shut him down with a nice run, and the flash comes in. They've got the knockup with the Fate's Call. If they can pick up the two Fed members, that's gonna be big for 100 Thieves. Saskia's got nowhere to run. Even a Whirling Death does nothing. He's shut down, and those are huge picks for 100 Thieves.
Huge is an understatement, Magical. Those were gargantuan picks to get. Not only the jungler, but the huge damage source in Draven. This is going to mean a Baron start for 100 Thieves next, and I gotta say, it's going to be tough to deal with this team.
And here's the TP. It's always difficult to try to take away a Baron from Callista. She's getting all these spears, but they are attempting to fight it back. It's nearly at 50%. There it is. It's going to be a while till Bluster can show up. Call of the Forge God is being used, but it's body blocked. It's going to get the knockup only on the one member. They can't get in the pit just yet. Aspect trying to be able to jump in with SkyTech, and they've got the damage, but they've lost the Baron. And here's the attempted fight coming in from Chad Jungle. They're taking them all down. Surdy had to flash over the wall, but 100 Thieves next can continue to chase. They've now gotten the Baron.
100 Thieves next just steal away the lead. Yes, they're still behind in gold, but oh my goodness, what a huge team fight after a couple of picks for them to get the Baron, the cherry on top, the extra kills. It all starts from this amazing pick onto Viego. You think Bluster, oh, he's gonna be safe. He's Viego. He has some means of getting out, but the chain CC is perfect.
And this is the thing, too. When you look at how 100 Thieves had set that up, they saw Saskia was still farming in mid lane. They saw the side lanes. They knew there was no answer to help back up Viego.
But even in the return fight, I'm amazed that EGP are able to get anything back, mostly on Gwyce's sacrifice, going into the backline, making sure there's nothing that Surdy can do in order to get that extra Call to Forge God down.
And it was close still. You can see the smite always is going to be there on the side of Chad Jungle. But the big problem is that they still lose a couple members in the fight. But honestly, a 3v5 fight, you lose one member and you're able to get a couple kills back for yourself with the Baron. You'll take that trade every day for 100 Thieves.
Oh, absolutely. 100 Thieves Next are really happy about the position they've now found themselves in. They're going to be able to do the 4-1 they've been set up to do. I feel like Gamsu especially has not gotten a whole lot of attention up top. He's been trying to teleport around and get plays, but it hasn't been working out so far, except for the one triple kill in Dragon.
And now, even though he might not have been a part of many of those fights, it doesn't even matter anymore. He's got Baron, he has set up the split push for days, and nobody is trying to even stop him. Instead, it's the call from EGP to try to take down this tier 2. The TP is going to be completed. They've got the Solar Flare, they've got the dive into the backline, and they've got the burst damage onto Saskiao. Killing spree coming in, and look at the play coming in from Gamsu. Nowhere to run. He's going to be able to chase you down for days, and they've got a huge knockup from Zerdy, but what does it matter when everyone around you is dead?
Oh no, 3 members down for the side of EGP, and 100 Thieves Next still have the Baron. They're going to be able to push this down for at least an inhibitor.
3 members retain the buff, 2 members survive from EGP. They have no fight left, even if it's Viego, Zoe, and they can poke and find one pick. That's all they could really hope for.
And that's not even going to happen so far. You can see 100 Thieves Next already positioning themselves to back. They think that the turret is enough, and they should push their advantage harder than they need to. Looking back at how this all started, the idea was good from Evil Genius's Prodigies. They go for this turret. They almost have enough with the Demolish, but it's just barely not enough, and the teleport completes. You can see how much danger there was for Saskiao. Couldn't survive the sheer burst damage coming in from 100 Thieves.
And look at Gamsu too. Look at that flank angle he had in that one to make sure there was no way to retreat.
And Zerdy, he does his best 1v3. He almost gets Chad Jungle in the process, but unfortunately, that's not what you need. All these fights are starting before EGP gets the health bars down with the poke from Aspect, and that's what they can't handle, is the fact that they need more time in order to start these fights.
Well, this game has been nothing but fights and rumbles throughout it all. We have another dragon that spawned up. Both teams set, ready to see who's going to be able to fight. It's a call of the Forge God, but the smite is secured by Chad Jungle, and now goes Gamsu into the backline, and here comes the Stormbreaker. They got so much damage on Saskiao. He's kiting it back. Morally Death was able to take down one. There's going to be the turnaround. Viego trying to be able to do his damnedest with a Heartbreaker, getting a little bit of damage called back, getting a little bit of damage back onto him, but he's still alive. Bounces around. Double kill with the Ren from Instinct, making a triple kill, chasing down Aspect. He's got nowhere to run, no team, no home. He's only got a little bit of poke left, but the Scan of the Week gets a lot of damage on him. He will survive, but nobody else with him.
It can't work like this, Magical. EGP needs Aspect to be alive, but he also needs to be doing damage in fights. 100 Thieves Next, they're not providing opportunities for Aspect to use this character. They're finding the right engages, and they're making sure that the Thief Balls are not the problem. Chad Jungle starts this off by getting the Dragon, and then going around the backside to get Saskiao because of a flash. Very well played by Volibear.
It's a great play, and it almost seemed like Saskiao was going to be able to turn it around, but that Heartbreaker breaks his heart just perfectly timed before he's able to heal up.
And Gamsu especially, getting out of that, absolutely crazy. He dives in with the Volibear, still loses 2 HP, and once again, Aspect is the last member left alive, but as you mentioned before, Magical, you can only get 1 pick at max with this character. He needs more backup in order to do more.
I'm sorry, my brain's a little dumb. I meant the Heartbreaker broke his own team's heart.
Oh, okay.
Because I was like, wait a minute, Buster's on his team. He dodged away. He could have absorbed 1 bit more of attack from Saskiao to save his life. But because he used the Heartbreaker, he dodged away, and Saskiao took the brunt of the damage.
Well, when you think about it, it's always going to be a Heartbreaker match because it's Viego versus Gwen. And, you know, just the history behind these two characters.
You're going lore on me, I see.
I'm going deep lore.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to go lore on this one, then, like, Viego, it's perfect to be paired up with Draven because he beat him in a fight. Right?
That is true.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how the lore goes for the cinematic.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. Anyways, going back into this game, it's a 2,000 gold lead for 100 Thieves, 2,500, excuse me. And you can see where a lot of that gold is allocated. It's the Draven Kalista disparity at this moment. That Draven, he might have gotten 5 kills earlier on, but he's died 3 times in a row since then.
You just can't find any means of getting onto this team. You see Chad Jungle and Gamsu always finding their way onto this poor Draven. There's not enough peel on the squad in order to get them off. And you could see that Zerdy has to use everything just to get a single engage Skytech. He's doing his best, but the composition just isn't working together.
And the Baron is up. The bait can be attempted by 100 Thieves. They even got a recall from Gamsu if they need to be able to have him TP behind enemy lines and make sure there is no retreat once more. They've got Callista getting free time with Baron, and you always have to be careful. Here comes the TP, here comes the fight, the Stormbringer looking for the backline, but Saskio's kiting this one out, and Gamsu now into the backline. They got the knock-up on top of Saskio, but he's still fine, he's still alive, he's stunned up for so long, but he's looking for the crit on to Gamsu, looking for the knock-up, still trying to be able to survive. He's going to be able to get
still
a crit.
Alive.
Sleepy Trouble Bubbles helps him out. He's alive. All the while, his team died on the other side, but he's got Surdy. He's got to take in front of him if they want to continue the fight.
But at the very least, this is going to be a very difficult Baron if they try to take it. But 100 Thieves Next are not scared. They're still going for this. A very risky play considering Draven's alive.
The thing is, it's Callista on Baron. It's an easy smite, essentially. You only have to have a little bit of free time. That's why they're waiting it out to see if Surdy can join in with Saskio around it.
And I think this might be enough. A 2v1, even if it is just a Draven and Ornn, that's a very fed Ornn, and that Draven is still reasonably far ahead.
Low, and here comes the engage. Young has to get away. They've got the damage onto Saskio. There he goes. Now Surdy are alone in the pit. No team, no life, no glory. Even if you took down Gweiss, it doesn't matter because the Baron was secured by 100 Thieves.
Oh, such a close game between these two. You keep thinking it's enough time, but EGP just barely late on the draw. And this teleport from Gamsu, absolutely crazy. Aspect does spot it out early, so it's not a surprise, but it does waste all the time in the mid laner, so he can't join into the main bulk of the fight.
And here, I didn't get to mention it before, but I can mention it now. It's like Gweiss built up the NF chains himself to make sure that anytime Saskio steps up, it's so much easier to lock him down forever. You saw how long it took him. He was bounced around for days before he was able to get the damage. Then here, he's immediately jumped on without... actually, he has cleanse.
Yeah, he sure does. But unfortunately, it just doesn't work out here as you see too much burst potential coming in from 100 Thieves Next. There's nothing Saskio can do because he either goes on to Young, who can burst him, or he goes onto the other side where Instinct can burst him. And there's just no options here for a Draven.
Well, the big thing to me is the fact that Young, again, on this Syndra, not the best laning phase, got solo killed by Zoe in the Syndra matchup, yet the Scatter the Weaks are needed. They're perfect. The Dragon has been secured by EGP, but the fight might be attempted by 100 Thieves. They got Solar Flare onto Skytick. He even got a little bit of knockback. Here comes Stormbringer, but it's not going to be able to get him in. Instead, they sacrifice the support, knowing they at least got the Baron.
Unfortunately, that was the right call for EGP. They had to let him go so that the fight could continue. As long as Bluster and crew get out, it's going to be fine. They can still defend, but 100 Thieves Next, they lose out on Dragon Soul. They still have the Baron, though, and they're going to push forward.
And that is what they want, because that would mean the game. They're pushing in with an advantage. Skytech still has 15 seconds left till he respawns.
I don't think you fight this if you're EGP. You just wait for the respawn, and you try to keep your health bars as high as humanly possible so that the final fight doesn't come through.
Getting a little bit of damage on to Surdy, but Surdy is fine. He's pretty tanky. Gamsu, even if he's got a good amount of damage, isn't going to be that much to be able to take anyone down. Even though they got the Sleepy Trouble Bubbles to connect, it's not going to be any follow at the moment. They have to be so worried playing into 100 Thieves.
And that's the thing about playing into 100 Thieves is there's so much potential for counter engage. There's so much potential for just plain old engage. Weiss has been playing this Leona wonderfully, and it's been impossible to get through this line.
Oh. Luckily for Young, he had Chad Jungle right behind him to make sure that he could escape after the Whirling Death had stopped his back. But this is going to be a big question that we hadn't gotten to yet, because it looked like 100 Thieves might just be able to end the game. But as this game continues, the ornaments, this is another crucial aspect of what EGP have drafted for themselves. They're starting to come through, and when you look at these fights, it's getting a bit scary of how Evil Geniuses are, not Evil Geniuses, 100 Thieves are going to be able to stop this late game ornament Raven.
Well, there's still always the chance, right? Because there's so much engage range. As long as they have some space and they don't get poked down by Aspect, then 100 Thieves Next have the ability to win pretty much every single fight. The Squishies are so vulnerable to Gweiss that there's nothing they can do. They need to play passive, and that's exactly what this comp from Evil Geniuses Prodigies do not want to do.
Not at all. They need to fight, and they need to be aggressive, and unfortunately for them, every single time they try, 100 Thieves can kite them for days, or they can throw the fight right back in their face.
And with that, I mean, this is just what you can do if you're 100 Thieves Next. You can push into the base pretty much repercussion-free, and you can continue to poke down forever because you have so much beef and so much protection that there's no way the carries can do anything from the other side.
And you feel bad for Aspect. He has been pretty on point when it comes to these paddle surge, these sleepy trouble bubbles in these fights, but he just does not have that damage just yet to actually burst down the members, because you look at the inventories for a lot of these players. Sterix Gage for Chad Jungle. You even look at the double Sonias they have, then the Immortal Shield Bow of Instinct. It's so difficult for your burst, your siege of Zoe to actually take out the right members quickly enough.
And Instinct is almost at 5 items at this point. If you can't get onto Instinct, then there's no happening. And let me tell you, with that stopwatch, it's not happening.
Not at all. It's not going to be easy at all. And they understand that evil geniuses are still playing passively, but the tag with the Scatter of the Weak forces out the cleanse that was stolen by Aspect just to survive. But another structure and another bit of gold has been picked up by 100 Thieves.
Gold lead has ballooned to about 6,000 gold, and it's looking like Baron spawning up in 2 minutes, Dragon spawning up in 2.5 minutes. We're going to have to see how this goes down, but it is close, Magical. 100 Thieves next. They just need one more good push.
They do, and then for evil geniuses, there's so much more left for them to accomplish. They have so little control over their own jungle that it's going to be difficult for them to fight back, but unfortunately, we do have a pause right now where there's a player that disconnected, so hopefully we'll be able to get into that. It's a 6,000 gold lead for 100 Thieves next, and with the backs up to the wall, the evil geniuses, if they lose this next fight, they lose the entire series, let alone the game.
But at the same time, it's not an easy fight for 100 Thieves next. They have this overwhelming position of 6,000 gold lead. They have great engage, but if they lose the fight, then it very easily turns Magical, and they don't necessarily have the 100% fight. They have only about an 85% fight, I would say, at this point.
But the thing is, that is a pretty overwhelming odds still against Evil Genius's Prodigy. 15% chance of success. Sure, it's better than 0. But it is looking dire for them and how they're going to be able to even find that position to win any of these fights.
It's going to be difficult, but it all comes down to how Aspect can chunk the health bars at first, which unfortunately in a lot of these fights he hasn't been able to do, and it comes down to how they're able to use the beef balls, especially Orange Surdy. He played amazingly throughout the first half of this game, but as the back half has gone on, he hasn't been able to tank up and he hasn't been able to get the engages he wants.
Alright, so from what we've heard, this pause is going to be dragging on for a little bit longer. We're not sure exactly how long, but we can look at some of the plays that have happened so far in this game, especially because you look at how things were going in the early game. There was a point where it almost seemed like Evil Genius Prodigy had set up their Draven Saskia to be huge, but then this play right here turned it all around.
And this has actually reminded me a lot of yesterday, where Saskia was actually the one that got caught out. And even in the quarterfinals, Saskia was the one that got caught out. This time, it's Bluster and Saskia that get caught out to completely turn the game in 100 Thieves' next favor. And EGP, they gotta feel really bad about that singular catch.
Pretty much one catch led to another, which led to Baron. Even if they tried to fight back, they now find themselves so far behind from one simple play, and you have to applaud 100 Thieves next for finding those plays in the first place.
It really does take a lot of diligence to set up that, not even Death Bush, just Death Ledge into the bush, and from there, it was an easy Baron take. They were able to fight off everything. Again, Weiss playing out of his mind in this series. It feels like every play that's made is made because of this Leona.
Getting that Leona to always find the right target, and then Instinct as well on this Kalista. He is 11-4 at this point into the game. So when we get back to live, when we get back into the game and out of the pause, you'll just see how far ahead this Kalista is. You are up against a Draven, and you normally talk about Kalista and the mid game where she's really powerful, great at objective control, but eventually you think how she falls off. And normally Draven, this is when he starts to spike. But that's 11 kills onto Kalista, and I think it's a full item lead for Instinct over Saskia.
I mean, Instinct has just been playing really well ever since the level 1 play. He got the first blood. He's been able to just snowball out of control because the entire team of 100 Thieves Next has been focused on that bot lane. And Instinct knows what to do with that lead. He's had great positioning. He's had great kill participation. And I feel like this has been his game entirely in Game 4 of this series.
But I kind of want to go back to the point you were talking about. Oh, actually, I hear the pause is already done, so we don't even have to do that. We can just jump right back into the game. We have a siege around the top lane inhibitor turret being set up by 100 Thieves Next.
And this is still a very close fight. I mentioned the 85%, a number I pulled from absolutely nowhere, but 100 Thieves Next are still in an overwhelmingly...
You didn't live calculate the number, Sam?
Yeah, I
I thought
definitely
that
went.
this was a real stat, not just something you made up.
I would
like
never
my
make
stats.
up stats on a live broadcast, Magical.
No, that's
but...
what I do. That's what I do.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why we make such a good pair, is because you don't, or you do and I don't, but I pretend
That's how it goes. All right, but right now, 100 Thieves Next, they peel back from the play. They had set up a siege potential, but they still do have to worry about the damage that can come in now that these ornament items are being completed across the board. The only one not to have one at the moment is SkyTech, who hasn't even built up the Mythic.
And he hasn't really built up the Mythic because he hasn't really needed it. The Zonya's a very interesting choice for the Nautilus,
We've
but
seen it
not
before.
unheard of, just because he needs to survive in these very tense environments. And so far, he has been the target of a lot of aggression from 100 Thieves
He
Next.
and Saskia, both of them. What is that, 8 and 17 between the two
Ooh.
in that bot lane. That's where most of the pressure from 100 Thieves Next has been exerted onto. We saw how long they had played around that. Both teams trying to make sure either they could bolster Saskia or they could put him down. And here, 100 Thieves Next seem to be the more accomplished team in their mission.
And they're getting the vision set up. You can see the Callista Ghosties just kind of flying around and making sure there's no surprises from EGP. Aspect can't get the poke he needs down. He's too far away. And the vision setup for 100 Thieves Next cannot be understated in how much control they have over this Baron.
Especially when you have a Callista around that Baron with 4 items completed. Like I said, it is nearly an item over that of Saskia. And when you give Callista any alone time with an objective like this, it is going to be difficult to be able to stop them. And you can even see how forced into this fight they are. Saskia has to flash away to be able to survive. Here comes the call of Forge Guard. He's alive still in the backline, but all this time they're kiting back. Saskia trying to be able to turn it around. They got to kill him and all, but here comes the jump on top of him from Gweiss to make sure that Gomsu can get so much damage on top of him. He nearly did. He's alive! EGP are fighting it back, but they got to be careful. Here comes a little bit of damage. Instinct is still alive. Looking for the rend. He got a lot of damage onto Aspect, but Aspect should die the moment he survives. It's a triple kill in from Young. Looking for more on Deserty. It's a quadra kill again. Young is the one to get it, and they can push down mid.
Are you kidding me, Magical? 2 quadra kills in one game and on opposite teams? What kind of chaos is this? Saskia, though, he's about to find the chaos himself. His instinct continues to chase him down, and I don't know if this is going to be the end game, Magical, but this is still looking amazing for 100 Thieves Next.
That it is, and they're about to get TP up for Young, and guess what else had just spawned in time? The dragon is there. It is a mountain soul secured for 100 Thieves Next. They have gotten a huge influx of gold yet again in these fights. And when we take a look at that replay, we have to keep our eyes on Saskia because it nearly seemed like he was going to turn it around until Young popped off.
Gamsu also on the backside all the time. Saskia has all the time in the world, but he's focusing his damage onto Chad Jungle. It's so close, but it's not enough to fully burst him down. And from there, Gweiss, again, the scourge of 100 Thieves Next, completely getting on top of the areas that he needs to. From there, Aspect tries to go back in. He just can't do it. He doesn't have the damage yet, Magical.
And here is a soul, and here is a Baron for 100 Thieves Next. SkyTech, way too far out. He had Bolster nearby, so they're going to be able to force off 100 Thieves Next, but this is only a matter of time before they start marching into your base.
It's not much that they have to do, Magical. 100 Thieves Next have the bot inhibitor open, and they're pushing down the top lane, so they have 2 avenues through which they can destroy the base. Instinct especially, even though he is lower ranged AD, he has the ability to just siege down this turret with how beefy Chat Jungle has gotten.
This game is not over. Scatter of the Week came out. I'm going to miss on any of the poke from Aspect with these shields and the resistances they now gain from having Mountain Dragon Soul themselves. It is difficult for them to constantly poke out all the while. Gamsu's pushing him in. Here's the attempted fight. 4v5, getting a lot of damage on top of Chad Jungle, who's still alive. They can't get on top of Young. They're still getting so much damage, and here comes Gamsu to the backline. Sniff, they got a kill coming in from Young. Getting more. This is going to be a murder and a massacre of Evil Geniuses, Prodigies, and 100 Thieves Academy. 100 Thieves Next, sorry. They get themselves a clean ace, and they will get themselves the 3-1 victory over Evil Geniuses, Prodigies. They're going to the Proving Grounds.
And through that, an amazing series played by 100 Thieves Academy. It looked a little dire in the beginning. They were able to get a kill, but then the kills start spiraling out of control to Evil Geniuses, Prodigies. But then they're back.